They ask me who I am. They ask me who I am. I told them I'm an Israelite. That's right, I'm an Israelite. They ask me where I'm from. I told them you can pick a side. We worldwide, I'm an Israelite. Whether through scripts or history, no, I can show you. In the army of Yahuwah's oh boy, I'm a soldier. Yeah, they ask me who I am. I told them I'm an Israelite. That's right, I'm an Israelite. When I say Israelite, they say you Jewish. Look, don't be foolish. Come get a dose of this mental renewing. See how we brew it, it's just different. Like, for instance, first thing to know, brother, it's a culture, no religion. Talking the bloodline, they say we Jacob children. And yeah, that's a factor, but what really matter, how we living. Given that we gotta get Beseda, that mean in order. For that we got that Torah, some brothers we got Basora. Of course, and some don't believe, but that don't matter today. I ain't tryna throw no shade, as long as we all stay in the way. That 613, we coolin' like palm trees. Look up with that yacht, you ain't a fan, know what I mean. They ask me who I am, I told them I'm an Israelite. That's right, I'm an Israelite. They ask me where I'm from, I told them you can pick a side. We worldwide, I'm an Israelite. Whether through scripts or history, no, I can show you. In the army of Yahuwah's oh boy, I'm a soldier. Yeah, they ask me who I am, I told them I'm an Israelite. That's right, I'm an Israelite. He said that we the light, got no choice but to shine. By the sweat of your brow, now you see why we grind, how we do, and we move to keep that ruach in our midst. When we eat, I got a list. Wanna build, break out them scripts. We don't hate it, we don't diss. We ain't worried about another. He called us his firstborn. You can call us big brother. Look deeper and you'll discover. Think of movies and shows, truth been exposed. What you know about those captured and sold. The Igbo and the Ashanti. Check out the history, never lost. Ain't gotta find me. Right where we meant to be, rebellion. Let the expulsion, repentance fix that. Y'all gotta get back. I can call them big facts. They ask me who I am, I told them I'm an Israelite. That's right, I'm an Israelite. They ask me where I'm from, I told them you can pick a side. We worldwide, I'm an Israelite. Whether through scripts or history, no, I can show you. In the army of Yahuwah's oh boy, I'm a soldier. Yeah, they ask me who I am, I told them I'm an Israelite. That's right, I'm an Israelite.
And we ain't saying this our salvation tonight, but the Most High just put his name on it, so we represent. All praise. Shalom.
Yeah. All right. Go ahead, Chief. You can do it now. I just did it. It's a lot clear. Shalom, everyone, and welcome to another segment of Yah Conscience Radio. If it's not Yah Conscience, it is not acceptable. Rashid Naknuro team. Latet kabod weshebag leyahwa. El Elyon, Elohi Abraham Yiskak Yaakov. First, I want to give honor, or we want to give honor and praise to the Most High Power. Yahuwah here that calls us to exist, he that calls us to be, the power of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Welcome. How y'all doing? We got Gaberi Kathy right here. How you doing, Gaberi? Had a little moment right there.
Truly blessed. Thank you, brother. How are you, Chief?
I am well. I'm alive and well. Let's just say that. Life happens, but you got to keep pushing, keep moving.
Absolutely.
Chief Prince Zebulon, how you doing?
Hallelujah. Soraya the other day, brother. How's everybody else doing?
Doing good on my end. Doing well. And last
Good.
but not least, Acho Charon. How you feeling? See, you got a picture up there. I see you got a picture. She might be a little occupied at the moment. All right. So today's topic for the evening is an interesting one. thought provoking. We definitely gonna go in that what the young ones say today, that bag, bring out this information, bring out our thoughts, our opinions, and just build. So today's the name or the title of the day is Discomfort Creates Comfort. Discomfort creates comfort. What's y'all thoughts on that? Is that a true statement, or is that just some catchphrase statement that I came up with? Does discomfort create comfortability? Do you have to be uncomfortable
Did you say
sometimes?
discomfort? Discomfort.
Mhm. Do you have to be uncomfortable sometimes in order to become comfortable?
Absolutely. You got to lay in a rock bed to know you don't like how that feel.
True.
Yeah.
That's true.
Absolutely. It's just like a child learning the difference between hot and cold.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You know what I mean? It's going to cause them discomfort, especially the hot at some point. But we hope that teaches some sort of lesson for them to be, to move with cautious moving forward. You know what I mean?
Okay.
But yeah, I agree.
What about you, Chief? What's
I
your
don't.
thoughts on it?
Yeah, I was actually trying to find the actual the subjects or whatever. I trying to pull up the video, but no, I think and you said that catchphrase that you used was what again? Repeat that catchphrase.
Just
I might have to add that to
discomfort.
the arsenal.
The one the title?
Yeah, no,
Discomfort
I can't see.
creates.
No, I can't see it from my end.
Oh, okay. I haven't showed it. I was just saying it. So
Oh,
discomfort
discomfort creates
creates
comfort.
comfort. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I mean, anything that's done in repetition over long periods of time, you can find comfort in it. I mean, think about it. You have let's say women who are unfortunately in abusive relationships. They might start off despising what's happening. But if
Okay.
it's happening frequently and it's happening not to the point where it's anything major, you'll find some women that, and I've heard stories where women be like, yeah, I've been in a marriage for 30 years and, I get beat every Tuesday and Thursday. Like, what? And then you start scratching your head like, well, wait a minute, why? But then you realize people are creatures of habit. So even things that are detrimental to you, I mean, why do people smoke cigarettes?
Mm.
And they'll tell you that, well, I smoke because it calms me down. Although we know that cigarettes does not calm you down at all. They don't calm you down. But there's a comfortability in anything that you do over long periods of time and with enough consistent repetition, you will find comfort in it, for good or for evil.
Okay.
At
And
least from my observation.
I love the observation because I wasn't even going in that direction, but this is why I love the panel. I love the panel. No, seriously, I love the panel because we can extract different points of view, which is actually consistent and makes sense. Like your subject and bringing this title out actually makes perfect sense for the subject that you brought out. Then if I was to go into just like, something normal, like somebody that works out. Have you all just ever went back to working out and then you try to work out like you used to, and that your body is in pain? I'm talking about for a week, 2 weeks, depending on what you did, But as you continue to work out like that, you're gonna you get uncomfortable, have some discomfort in your body. But the ultimate goal is being comfortable in your body. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's kind of like the picture I have on here. I don't know if you all saw the picture, but it's someone doing like some type of pose that stretches. And we know those of us that's not flexible, we know it's painful sometimes if you're trying to get that. But
Right.
all of it, after a while, it's going to help you for when you become older, because there's a lot of older people I know that are not flexible. They can barely bring their arms over their head. They can barely touch their toes, bend over that. So it's just a lot of great things about the whole discomfort or the whole uncomfortability in order to be comfortable. So, Coach Sharon, you got something for us?
Kane, the link isn't available on the social media platforms.
Shalom, shalom. E White, Salakali Sharon, Akho Sharon. Try it again. I actually went on there when he had mentioned it. I made it. I did what I didn't pay attention like you had. I brought it out a couple weeks on me, but I changed the privacy so that way it's public. You could go on there now on my page and share the live whenever you can. But
yeah, it's
go
still
ahead.
it's still coming up as this content is unavailable.
It shouldn't. I don't know why.
Yeah, it's still coming up as content available on my end as well.
Well, we'll get back to that then because I have it. I don't know why it's doing that. I have it live. It's live. I don't know. It's
yeah.
Which one are you all trying to share? Are you trying to share my last post?
Yep.
Yeah, even to the viewers, I have viewers texting me and saying that they cannot access the link. It is unavailable.
All right. Well, hold on one second. All right, it's public now. The last post that I have is public, and that's the Facebook Live. The one that's the link for YouTube is the post. Did it go?
Yep. I see it now.
All right, cool. Salakali, everybody, forgive us, forgive me. Salakali news, forgive us. Salakali, forgive me. But we're gonna get this show cracking. We appreciate Andre White. That's my cousin. Shalom. He said good point to Chief Zebulon. Akho, did you have anything that you wanted to say about the topic before we go into the beautiful topics you brought out, Akho Sharon?
Actually, I brought these topics out because I want to be, for the first time, I want to be a student.
Oh goodness.
I want to be taught. So,
okay.
I do have some, I do have some insight on the topics, but mainly I pose the questions because, I'm a student. I'm going to be a student today.
All right, I'll kick it off then. I'll kick off the first question. I'm gonna bring it out. So the first question is, are zodiac signs significant or insignificant to a person's identity? I love this question. I got in so many debates, back and forth arguments, and it shouldn't have been. And then the next part of it is, why do we give it so much power to detect a personal character? I love it. How can we distinguish your fellow Hebraic neighbor through their tribal blessings? I can't wait to hear Chief part on that part, but I'm gonna go ahead and go get it cracking. So, are zodiac signs significant or insignificant to a person's identity? I'm gonna try to be as objective as I can. Before being objective, I would say, for me, no. That's my straightforward answer. I'm gonna tell you why. What I've noticed is, before this walk, during this walk, a lot of people go hard on the zodiac signs. I think a lot of times, also it can be what the zodiac sign is, and that's nothing that I don't have anything against. I say do it, But what I've realized is that a lot of us have all of the characteristics that's spoken about within each zodiac sign. That's one. Second part, you can have someone. I'm a Cancer, by the way, y'all. They say Cancer wear his heart on the sleeve and he's crabby and blah, 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 blah. But what happens when you change your environment? What happens when you're taught differently by men and or women that could bring a different perspective, and you start becoming consistent in a different type of setting? What happens if you grow up in the hood, and you are I don't know a lot about zodiac signs because I know it's two parts. One thing that I learned about it is a lot of us, we go off of the moon only or something like that, and not the sun side of it. It's like you're a Cancer here, but then you're like a Aries or Pisces as a sun sign or something like that.
Yeah, they call it sleeker. They call it moon rising, or what is your sun rising? Yeah.
Okay. So to me, to just sum it up, my answer to sum it up, okay, I'm not against it, but what I do know for a fact is that every last one of us on this panel, those that's watching, those that might watch it later, I guarantee you have characteristics from each zodiac sign. That's one. Two, you might not have characteristics from even your own sign if you are raised in a certain environment. This is my opinion. I'm not saying it's a fact. Environments change your characteristics and your personalities. Well, not your personality, but certain characteristics and things that have been pushed on you. So I want to stop there. How can we distinguish your fellow Hebraic neighbor through their tribal blessings? That one I'm going to be a student on too. I have my thoughts, but I'm going to be a student on that one with Chief Prince Abulan. I'm sure he's going to bring out some amazing things on that because I've actually spoken to him. Chief, are you going to speak on what I'm about to say right now? You know what I'm about to say. I had asked you, are you going to speak on that or I could bring it out a little bit?
No, bring it out and I'll bring it out and I'll land back after.
Okay. So, in our community, a lot of people say who they are, they think they are, or who they've been told. And I asked Chief one day, I'm like, man, I said, look, I know I'm Israel regardless, but I don't know what tribe I'm from. I understand the history. I understand how people come up with some of their the charts. I get it. I done looked at some of the best people that speak about the charts, from ISUPK, they give that crown to Captain Kataza, who actually wrote a book on it, all the way to your Divine Prospects. I did my own studies on it, but I still went to Chief because Chief is the historian of Israel to me. Like ridiculous. And I said, how did you all come up with some of these things? And I said, who would you? And he told me like the spirit of your spirit, your personality is how some leaders would kind of point you in the direction that you or what tribe you might be from. And he told me he thinks that based off my spirit, and I'm putting this out there for the Achayot, the sisters to hear and people that's listening, that I'm from Benjamin. And my cousin that's on this call right now, if he's still here, he said everyone hate Leos. They go hard. Let me bring it up. My cousin, Jamaican. So Jamaican would be according to some of the tribes. Wouldn't that be Benjamin too, Chief? Or am I off? According to some of these.
If you're subscribing to the traditional ISUBK tribal chart, then Jamaica and the original one was West Indies is Benjamin.
Right.
Later decades and like the past 20 years, they kind of narrow it down and say Jamaica.
Okay.
All
right. So I wanted to put that out there, and I'm gonna close out and pass it. So to answer the question, just real quick was, I don't knock people when they, think of the zodiac signs and things of that nature, but I do believe that environment can change an individual. I do believe standards and morals could change an individual. Look at, the Islam community, they literally changed men that were savages. You know what I'm saying? And they changed. The character changed. So the characteristics comes from zodiac sometimes too, right? All that changed. So I believe that to be the case. And as far as the last part of the question she asked, I'm gonna just be a student on that one. I just wanted to share the story as to when Chief had brought out. He said, "Man, you got a Benjamin spirit." You know what I'm saying? But I would love for him to bring out whenever he speaks on this. So I'm gonna pass the mic. Hold on, let me I gotta post some of the people. That's what they say. We are Benjamin. He's Jamaican. Since day one, we never claimed a particular tribe, but acknowledged we are roots of Abraham, Israel. Hallelujah. Yeah. All right. Who want to go next?
Okay, I have a comment.
All right.
So I understand the stance you take as far as the zodiac and the characteristics of each sign, and I was the same way as far as like each zodiac sign they all had the same attributes as far as the characteristic traits. However, the way that you distinguish from these zodiac signs is that one main character trait that stands out that the next zodiac signs do not, that do not have. So, for an example, you're a Cancer. They say what's the main insight? What's the main characteristic traits of a Cancer? You're very emotional beings.
Mm-hmm.
Even though y'all may like to swim, just like y'all may like to swim, or y'all may be talkative, or y'all may exhibit other attributes of the zodiac. It's that one main characteristic traits that puts you in alignment to your zodiac sign. Me, I would be considered a Leo. And then I see a comment saying everybody hate Leos because we go too hard. That was a ha moment for me.
Yeah.
But I do want to bring it out as far as if we don't claim a zodiac sign, if it's not a part of our whole identity, then what is the difference between the 12 tribes? The 12 tribes of Israel, because we align ourselves to those characteristic traits as well.
Mm-hmm.
Even though, because you got to remember, the 12 sons of Israel, they're family, they were brothers, so you are going to carry the same kind of attributes with one another, because y'all do carry the same DNA. So I guess for me, it's like, what is the difference between not being not aligning yourself to the zodiac signs as far as the characteristic traits, but we do the same thing with the 12 tribes of Israel.
Okay.
So when I looked at the zodiac, it's a Greek word. It stems from a Greek word meaning animal or cycle or circle of animals.
Mm-hmm.
And I did some studying earlier, and it do have some scriptures, pertaining to the 12 constellations, specifically in Job, where it talks about the red giant star, and then it talks about Orion, and then it talks about I cannot pronounce this word. It's Pleiadas. I think Pleiades. Okay, Pleiades. Yeah. So that's basically so when I did the definitions of these things, they are basically just stars in the constellation. Mm-hmm. Also, let's see.
Can I say something while you
Can.
I do want to say what I can agree with the zodiac signs as far as it being attached to an individual. I know that it's supposed to be when you were born too. You were born around the time of when so I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Mm-hmm.
If you ask my cousin right now, he listening. I didn't know he was gonna pop up. I was what you're saying that Cancers was back then. But if I didn't tell you I was a Cancer right now, I don't know if you would fully know if I was a Cancer.
I would have known without you telling me.
Because I'm emotional?
Because I feel like you bring a lot of emotions through your songs. The way you sing.
I'm supposed to, I'm an R&B singer.
Yeah, but still, you still exhibit those type of characteristic traits where, to me, you seem like a romantic person. You
passionate.
So what about Genuine and them? They not Cancers, I don't think. Like it's an R&B thing. It's what we do.
And plus, Chief, your mannerism as well.
Okay.
You have a particular mannerism with you where your face. It seems like you wear your emotions on your sleeves.
Gotcha.
But it's not a negative thing, so don't take it as a negative thing. It's just a characteristic trait that I've been observing, since knowing you.
Gotcha. All right. Continue, please.
So I do want to bring out Genesis 1:14, where it talks about the signs of the heavens and things like that. Okay. So when I looked up the Hebrew word for signs, it is concordance. It's H226, and the Hebrew word is off. and it means a signal, literally and figuratively, a flag, a beacon, a monument, a omen, a prodigy, evidence, token. Sleeper. He said he don't swear. I'm reading these comments. Hold on.
Don't swear. Hey, I'm trying to tell you. Shalom, shalom, Achot Anaya. We appreciate all y'all tuning in. Make sure y'all subscribe. Do not leave until you subscribe on our YouTube channel. Go ahead, Achot.
And then I go to and then when I go to Deuteronomy, it talks about not being dismayed by the signs in the heavens, you know. And when I looked up dismay in the Hebrew concordance, it's trouble, haste, fear, vexed, afraid. So yeah, so basically, you know, I've just been kind of like studying and, you know, trying to find the significance and the insignificance of the zodiacs, and kind of like comparing it to why we attach ourselves also to the 12 tribes of Israel. And we do. A lot of us attach ourselves characteristic wise as well.
So what is your stance on it before we pass the mic to Chief Prince Zabulon? What's your stance on it, Achot? If you don't mind, what's your stance?
I do feel that it does have some type of significance to it. But I don't think it wholeheartedly dictate our whole being as a whole.
Okay.
The same with claiming a tribe, you know.
I love that you said that, because I plan on getting shameless plug right now. Make sure y'all go to Maccabees merchandise, get y'all a flag or a banner, all different tribes, and I plan on getting the Levite one, Benjamin, and Yehuda.
Because I mean, it talks about our forefathers. You know, it talks about the constellations in Torah. It talks about stars and the signs and the moon and things like that. But for the most part, I felt like the signs in the heavens was to know when is the new moon. It was to know how far we travel. It was to know when we supposed to observe this Kwadosh day. When the Kwadosh day was supposed to, you know, come is, you know. So I felt like it was a schedule for for the people. But I'm gonna pass the mic.
Chief Prince Zabulon, what you got? Oh, you want Gabetta Kathy, you want to go, or you want to let Chief go? Whichever one.
I should go.
I'm in the same seat as my sister tonight. I explained that I really am very interested to hear, you know, what you had to say, as well as Chief Prince, because you already know I grew up in a Christian household, and, you know, my husband and I was discussing this earlier today, and, you know, the weird thing, she would wake up in the morning, that was when the newspaper was still being delivered, look at the horoscopes of herself, of her children, of her friends, and then she would flip to the obituary to see which one of her friends had died. And then it was like, oh, my number's in there, I got to play this number, or, you know, go to work and come home and was like, oh, my, you know, my sign was right, and blah, blah, blah. So, you know, again, as I got older, I started looking at, okay, what is this about? And like my sister said, as well as yourself, I believe there are certain characteristics, because it became scary to me when I would read certain things, read a horoscope for a particular day, and certain things, the Most High allowed certain things to happen. Let me interject that he allowed certain things to happen. I think at that point, that's where the trickery could come in, because you think you have one above the Most High, because you just was able to read a newspaper, or somebody's telling you your fortune or whatever, and you think you can use this method in order to gain some sort of, you know, jump on your knowledge, but you can't. I also believe, and like my sister did, I wrote down the 12 signs. I also wrote down the 12 tribes. I also wrote down the 12 characteristics, and the fact that these stars, the constellation, the design of them were here before we were here. I would like Chief's opinion, and I'm going to just throw this out there, on Deuteronomy 18, verses 10 through 14.
You already hallelujah. Yeah.
And I'm gonna, it's scary. I kind of, and again, when I was going through it today and I was talking, you know, I like, is this our apple of knowledge? You know what I mean? That you know, like, is that we're not supposed to mess with that? I just don't feel that we're supposed to deal with it. The Most High didn't say this stuff didn't exist. It's how you use it. How are you using it in your everyday life? Are you using this as a guide? And the Most High is the one that created us. He's the one that gave us our personalities. And that's what I got to say about that.
Yeah, and that's why I had to look up the word dismay, because dismay, if you just read it in the English versus the Hebrew, it gives off a totally different definition. So like you said, Kathy, like, we're not supposed to deal with this, or we're not supposed to give it too much energy or things like that. But the word dismay will kind of like give off the impression like, don't fear, like don't be afraid. It will almost kind of give you the impression like, even if you do use this as a guide, it's okay. Don't be afraid of it. Don't vex your spirit of it. Don't fear it. But I just wanted to read down the characteristics of the 12 tribes really quick. So Judah would be considered the law enforcer, the chief of police of the community. Gad would be considered the trooper. Joseph would be considered the secretary, the accountant. Dan would be considered the counselor, the judge in the community. Asher, his blessing was to, he carries his own bait. And Lewi, he was a minister, a spiritual teacher to the community, also to the Most High as well. Issachar would be considered a strong worker, very skilled worker. What's that, 12? Jeez.
I was just listening.
Yeah, because my father had wrote a book a long, long time ago, B'nai Zakrin Publications, about separating yourself into your 12 tribes. But yeah, I'm a pass the mic.
All right. Well, for those who are just tuning in, welcome to Y'all Conscious Radio. Well, if it's not Y'all Conscious, it is not acceptable. Make sure you subscribe to our channel on YouTube, Y'all Conscious Radio. Might be some changes soon, but please subscribe. Get us 100 subscribers so we can actually personalize this YouTube channel for you all. I'm going to pass the mic to Chief Prince Zebulon. Once he gives his, we're going to go to the first song. Just in case you all was waiting for that first song, we are going to play it. It's a new song too, by the way. Pass the mic to you, Chief.
Okay, hallelujah. This has been a contentious issue in Israel for a very long time. And I think one of the, at least from my observations, I think one of the key problems in the dialogue about this this subject, and not just with us, just for the past, 40, 50 years, whatever. The problem is that as Israelites, we have a tendency to do something, and we even do it with Scripture. We have a tendency to reverse prophecy. Like, we read backwards into circumstances. So, for instance, if I am a person who has an issue with womanizing, for instance, of having multiple women, and this is just something that I'm just saying that if a person has that issue, they love having women all over the place, whatever, and they don't want to really let go of that, what they do is they'll go backwards and say, well, hey, did not Israelite men have multiple women in Scripture? And that will be the justification to continue what they were already doing prior to coming to the information about the subject. We've seen the same thing happen with the zodiac. So, for instance, when I talk to people, when we have these conversations about the zodiac issue, and I ask them, I say, well, my question is, when you're talking about these things, are you saying that you believe in the zodiac, or are you saying that you believe in horoscopes? Because they're not the same thing. Although,
good point.
One leads to the next, but there's a reason why I make that distinction, because what what you end up finding out is, I don't know. I'm not going to put a number. I was going to say 90 whatever percent, but we don't. I have not numbers to back that up. But a significant portion of people, when you pose that question, they cannot give you any cogent response because they've never considered what the hell they're believing, because they believe that one is synonymous with the other, and this is the problem. Zodiac is a Babylonian institution. The ancient Babylonians believed that the constellations, or at least the constellations that you can see from that part of the earth, because depending on where you're at, you may not be able to see most of the constellations. You only see what you can see. This is one of the what they call one of the fallacies of the zodiac, because on one part of the earth, you may never even know about what a Leo or a Pisces is, because in certain parts of the earth you can't see it. So there's some stickiness with that. But when people talk about the zodiac, and we know that it's a Babylonian institution, it's something that the Babylonians, they believed in it, and they believed, the Mazzaroth, that these were the physical manifestations of the gods. Because when you talk about, the scriptures make mentions of how the nations, would sing to the morning stars. What are the morning stars? Depends on who you ask. If you're talking to the Babylonians, they'll tell you, oh, it's referring to the gods. The stars are the gods, the Kokabim. These are deities. Now, for Babylonians, that's fine. Hey, listen, do you? But what I find interesting, when we talk about the zodiac and then we separate it from the horoscope, I say, well, okay, even if you go with the idea that that the stars somehow influence human behavior, and we'll get back to that point in a minute, but even if you do believe that, what does that have to do with the horoscope? Because what you have is, when the Greeks co-opted the Babylonian belief in the Mazzaroth, and they converted it into their form, what we are dealing with today, as far as when you open up the paper, then you read the horoscopes, that is a Greek invention. This is their take on Babylonian religion. This is the reason why you don't see Babylonian terms in use concerning the zodiac. You see what? Greek terms. Leo, Cancer, Scorpio. That doesn't sound Hebrew to me. Those are Greek terms, Greco-Roman terms. So I'm not going to get into whether those things are, because you guys have already covered it as far as certain characteristics and stuff like that, and we already know that characteristics can appear in anybody. Like, if I was to ask a person, I've asked people, what sign do you think I am? They're like, oh, I think you're an Aries. You're Aries. Well, yeah, maybe, but I was born October 5th. I'm a Libra. And they'd be like, nah, you can't be. Well, your doctrine says that I'm this, but I'm telling you I'm over here. And so we understand the problem with that. We understand that, it's all subject to it's what they call that, the Paul Barnum syndrome. What they call it, a sucker is born every day. Tell people what something means, but they frame it so that it can apply to anybody. Now, again, I don't have a problem with that. If that's what people want to rely on, to give them direction in their life, hey, that's on you. The only problem that I have is when, as Israelites, when we're trying to tie scripture into that practice. Now, if you want to do it, do it. But it's beautiful that Sister Kathy brought out Devarim 18:10. And there's a portion in Devarim 18:10 that is, when I say it is so overlooked, and it's overlooked to the point where I start believing that it's done deliberately. The text in Devarim or Deuteronomy 18:10 says, let me see, get here. Lo yi ma'et, lo yi matze, beka me'aber, beno ubito ba'esh, kosem, kwisatamim, and here's the key, me'onain, umenechesh, umakasef. The key term there is me'onain. What is me'onain? And what's beautiful about it is that this is one of the times that the King James Version actually translates it correctly.
I'm going to it right now.
Me'onain, the King James Version translates it as an observer of times. And this is a definition that is agreed upon not just by the King James Version, but almost every single translation that you find, even the JPS, the commentary in the JPS are like, they believe that is arguably the best translation of that term. It is a person who uses the stars or uses the heavenly bodies to determine their movement. Now we are told in the same text, but this time, of course, in the English, for those who are not who don't or won't deal with the Hebrew, there shall not be found among you anyone that marks his son or his daughter to pass through the fire, or maketh his son or his daughter pass through the fire, or that uses divination, or an observer of times, or an enchanter, or a witch. And of course, it goes on into some other stuff. But observer of times is very key here, because the King James Version translates that 1611. But also the terminology, there's a Greek terminology that passed down to the Latin and passed down to the Old English. And there's a term for observer of times, a person who does that. Do you know what it's called in Greek? In Greek, Latin, and then eventually in English, it's called horoscopus.
Okay, that is actually correct. Okay.
Horoscopus, from the Greek word hora, meaning time, and scopus, meaning to observe. Like, you're scoping something out. You're scoping. You are observing time. Horoscope. Now, mind you, this is not no quote unquote Hebrew Israelite doctrine. This is stuff that they already know. It has been in existence for centuries. They know what this is. Now, again, if a person wants to do it, that's fine. However, we have a Torah law that says you cannot do it and must not do it. So then if this is true, if we're saying that this law is actual fact and it should be adhered to, then that means that our understanding of the Matzorot and these other scriptural references to the stars or whatnot, then that means that our understanding has not derived from a Hebrew understanding. It has derived from another source. Now, the fact that these scriptures mention these constellations is fine, but it never tells you to seek them for anything other than what? And the sister brought it out.
Moedim.
Exactly. Moedim. Seasons for your months, your years, your days, so on and so forth. But to guide your path and to tell you how you should be moving in the world, outside of Yah, anything that you are using to guide your steps outside of Yah is idolatry in its purest form. Because you're saying that, because some people, when they want guidance, what do? They make tefillah.
Mm-hmm.
They make prayer. They come before the Most High. They petition the Most High. They communicate their soul to the Most High, and they wait for something from the Most High to guide their path, all the while keeping Torah. But a person who opens up the daily news, and I'm just saying that because I'm from New York, if you open up the daily news and you skip fortune cookies, or you skip over here to get this information, then it's like, well, who came up with this information? Like, who wrote the fortune? Who is the person that is writing the information of each one of these zodiac signs in the newspaper that we're saying, that sounds like me. I can assure you, it was nobody of Yah. Nobody from Yah wrote that article. These are people who are practicing augury. They're practicing witchcraft. They're doing the things that the Torah specifically forbids us to partake in. Now, again, that's just what the text says. And these people's own language attests to that fact. But I think more importantly, because I think Sharon brought up a very good point. And that is, well, if that's the case, well, then what do we say about the tribes? I mean, because is it not kind of the same thing? I mean, you're saying that this characteristic of this tribe is, this person, seems like they're from Benjamin, or this person seems like they're from Judah. Isn't that kind of like the same thing? And I would say it is absolutely not the same thing, because the difference between the two is one is coming from a source that we can verify and attest in the scriptures, and the other one is coming from a source in which we were told not to even indulge. Even the New Testament tells you to do what? Do not go, Matthew chapter 10, verse 5, go not into the way of the Gentiles, or to any of the Samaritans enter ye not, but go rather to the lost sheep, meaning we don't want anything that you guys have to offer us. Your God is the unknown God. Our God is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And we know what he requires. We know the direction that he gives us in this walk. So we don't need your newspaper to tell us what he has already given us.
All praises, all praises.
So that's the short, my short condensed version.
All right, those that's tuning in, please make sure you subscribe to the channel. This is Yah Conscious Radio. Well, if it's not Yah Conscious, it is not acceptable. We're going to go to the first song, you all. We went in, we normally would have had the first song come in by now, but man, it's been a lot of things being said that needed to be said, and hopefully you took some notes if you didn't know, and we said something that you did know. Without further ado, I'm going to play the first song, and it's called Testimony, and it's by Maccabee and Moetan Yehudi Gang. Make sure y'all show up April 2nd. It's going down. Brilliant Bash. Let's go. Hold on 1 second. There we go.
Let the redeemed of Yah say so, whom he has redeemed from the hand of the adversary, and gathered out of the lands, from the east, from west, from north, and from south. They wandered in the wilderness, in the desert way. They found no city to dwell in. Hungry and thirsty, their being in them grew faint. Then they cried out to Yah in their distress, and he delivered them out of their troubles. Tell them, Maccabee.
I was struggling, seemed like my burden was doubling. I bought the liquor and guzzled it. I didn't know about the covenant. I swear the last 4 or 5 years of my life been humbling. I could have died in these streets, helpless, epileptic. I could have died in my sleep. I give y'all the glory. I tear up and telling my story, cause y'all put the healing on me. I asked what is my purpose, and he responded, said servant. If it's about the words, be observant. No fences travel, I'm certain. No slack today, I'm in worship. Correction. I gotta testify, y'all had to rectify. I had to make the connection. I got off track for a second, but I got back focused on the right direction. That's your direction only. I feel blessed and holy. I receive a test and give a testimony. Searching through the darkness, felt the tents upon me, then the light shine. That was my sign. Now I only follow those who like mine. Got a lifeline, call the secret place. Need to praise anytime's the right time. Curses are breaking, this real is awakening. The future is shaping, the wicked is faded. Watch the rebirth of a nation. The earth is awaiting for saints to come back and reclaim it. Who know the pain we don't overcame? Who giving praise to Yahuwah name? Who are the princes of power? They tried to devour. We stood up and overcame. You know it ain't no pressure.
I done had so many rough times in my life, but I still managed to make it out alright. My testimony, stumbling through the dark, searching for the light. I found my way, now my future's looking bright. My testimony, I done made it out the streets without a scratch. Not my will, but I say Toda Yah for that. My testimony, lamp to my feet, light up to my path. Torah made, yeah, that's keeping me intact. My testimony, I look back over my life, it's like I'm watching a movie. Rewind and then pause the scene when my enemies tried to do me. They was shooting through my ride, I thought it would be my last breath, but all of the bullets that came through miss. I was swerving right and swerving left, so I said thank God. no casualties. We made it out without a scratch. It all came from a fight at the club that I started to see if my hands was attacked. I was so petty back then. Didn't even take much for me to get it no ish, but somehow it never got out of hand. And once again, I'm thinking y'all for this. I remember that time and then got into it with a dope fiend, cause he said that we ripping me. Went in the house, got a knife, and I grabbed my 380 with a quickness, pointed it straight at his dome and asked him, do you really want this drama? He took off and ran, and this girl called the laws, and I swear they must have been around the corner. They showed up fast, and I heard footsteps. I was like, who is that? Running up at the end of the building we was at, women at the same time. It was a long and all black AR to my president. I had a heart attack, so I screamed, don't shoot, put my hands up. Then he threw me on the ground, and then he searched me, but I already threw my strap, so I was clean. Told her, yeah, once again, even though not work. I done had so many rough times in my life, but I still managed to make it out alright. My testimony, stumbling through the dark, searching for the light. I found my way, now my future's looking bright. My testimony, I done made it out the streets without a scratch. Not my will, but I say Koda, yeah, for that. My testimony, lamp to my feet, lighter to my path. Torah made, yeah, that's keeping me intact. My testimony, I done had so many rough times in my life, but I still managed to make it out alright. My testimony, stumbling through the dark, searching for the light. I found my way, now my future's looking bright. My testimony, I done made it out the streets without a scratch. Not my will, but I say Koda, yeah, for that. My testimony, lamp to my feet, light up to my path. Torah made, yeah, that's keeping me intact. My testimony.
Yeah, that was Yehudi Gang, artist none other than Maccabee, Moed Maccabee and Moed Testimony. Welcome to Y'all Conscious Radio. Well, if it's not Y'all Conscious, it is not acceptable. For those who are just tuning in, please make sure you subscribe, share, like. We touched on our zodiac sign, significant or insignificant to a person's identity. Was the first topic. Why do we give it so much power to detect a person's character, a personal character? How can we distinguish your fellow Hebraic neighbor through their tribal blessings? Don't know if we really touched on that part, Chief Prince. I don't know if he was able to really touch on that one, but we can move forward to the next topic unless you had anything extra on that, or anybody had anything extra on that part of the question. So go ahead and move to the next one. And the next question is, when a man divorces a woman, she must leave her children behind and leave without them. What would our communities look like if we practice this on a large scale? What is the science behind this particular cultural custom? This is an interesting one. Did anyone want to take the lead on it?
Well, well.
Anybody want to take the lead?
The reason why, can y'all hear me?
Okay, we can hear you. Okay, we can hear you.
Okay. The reason why I posed this question is because I'm looking at our communities, right? And I'm seeing that it's a lot of single mothers out here. It's a lot of single mothers out here, and the men are not in the households on the large scale in our communities. So I was like, you know what? I wonder how our communities would be, how effective this practice would be on our, in our communities if we did what the law would say. Meaning, if a woman, divorced, she must leave the house and leave the children with the father. Yep. The science behind that, what does that look like? We all know that women,
I think you broke out, sis. I think you broke out. You still there? Still there?
That's those iPhones.
Oh,
good one.
Team Samsung Android over here.
I'm gonna mute out.
All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and take lead on it, man, because I think this is very important. And by the way, I got iPhone now, so far so good for me. I had the MacBook Pro for years. I had the iPad. It was only right. My Android messed up on me a couple days ago, and I just said, you know what? Just give me the iPhone. So
No, it's all good. Don't worry about it, brother. Repentance is always possible for you, brother. It's always possible.
Oh man. So I'm gonna go ahead and Akho Sharon's back. I don't know if you wanted to take the lead. If not, let me know. Go ahead.
Go
finish
ahead. Go ahead, Chief.
Okay. I think this was a great topic that you brought out, because what's interesting, Akho Sharon, is in my covenant contractual agreement. I actually have that in there. Like if I was to send you all my what some people call it ketubah, my contract or contractual covenant agreement for whoever I end up with, I literally have in there. And what's crazy is, what's amazing about it, in my opinion, is I'm covering both, protecting both the man and the woman. I got a lot of duties I'm supposed to do and make sure I'm, following through on. But what I have in there is, if we were to separate, one of the things, which I don't plan on separate, I plan on sticking out marriage, X, Y, and Z for life. But if we was to, the children do come with your boy. And the reason is, it's funny how you brought this out. And I should have been prepared and brought it. So what I might do is, while the next person talk, I'll try to find it. But it is some stats that shows the differences of the children when when the father's around, one. And I think I found one also with the comparison of children being raised by a single father versus a single mother. And some women might not like it, but what I got out of it, and I'll try to find it when you all speak, is that they were more successful. And I'm not talking about finance, being rich and all that stuff, but just not a broken home.
More successful as far as their how the children will be raised.
Okay.
How their soul will be.
Okay. And just being more structured. More consistent in certain things. I'm gonna bring it out, but I do know that we all know that, and some people just equate this to just a two parent household, which I'm all down for and in agreement with as well. But I'm gonna try to find that study. But the reason I put that in my contractual covenant agreement is because of things even pertaining to myself, things pertaining to people I have counseled, things pertaining to what I have seen. The differences of how the children turn out when they're just with the mom versus the father being present or the father having them. And it's not a shot at the mom. It's just that some women, I'm going to say some, I'm never going to say all, I'm never going to say most, but it's like a friend. They try to be a friend first. Some are strict. Some are, disciplinarians. But for the most part, what I've seen a lot is either one or two things: being friends or being overly aggressive to the child, because they're trying to compensate the lack thereof of the male authority being there, which I commend them on, but that's an imbalance. And when you put too much in, then now those children are reciprocating what they're learning from you. And then now they have an imbalance on how they're going to move, how they're going to be with other women, how they're going to be with other men. So it's a whole psychology behind this. And I think I'm going to write a book on it now that you brought this out. I think I'm going to write a book on it. But honestly, I think that the father definitely should, in my opinion, and it might be an unpopular opinion, have the children if it was a separation. Matter of fact, hold on. Proverbs chapter, what's today's day, y'all? 17?
Yes, sir.
Let's go to Proverbs 17 real quick, you all. It's funny because I just thought about this. Let's go to Proverbs 17 real quick, y'all. I'm about to bring it up right now, and then I'm passing the mic. Because if we Hebrews, and this is why I think, not matter of fact, I coach Rome. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
Why when I read when you first said it, I was like, wait. She said it's a commandment. I'm like, oh, what she mean? I said, okay, I could get the cultural side of it.
Yeah.
But then now I'm thinking about Proverbs 17. Were you talking about Proverbs 17 when you brought this out? Let's bring it up.
Actually, I was talking I did the same thing you did, Chief. I looked up the statistics.
Okay.
How would the children be with their father versus solely being with their mother? Also, I looked at it. I looked at the statistics as far as, is it easy for a man to marry when he has his children, when he has multiple children, or is it more easier for a woman to be married when she has multiple children and she's single?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And sometimes, like when men have their children and when women see that they are active in their children's life and they're taking care of their children, I feel like it's more easier for them to be married. I mean, for them to, it's more easier for them to, assimilate a marriage. It's because it's attractive. It's attractive. Okay. Not only is it attractive, but it's something that seems foreign or unordinary in our communities.
Okay. Good thoughts. Good point. I want to bring up this verse real quick, and I'm passing the mic. Now, you can take this verse how you want to, those that's listening, right? But Proverbs 17:6. And you know what's interesting? In certain versions, it's funny how, like in the Sepharia, it actually says, say parents. But we know what fathers is in Hebrew, don't we? And the Hebrew word for fathers is right in there on Proverbs 17:6. So it goes like this. It says, children's children. Let me read that again. Children's children are the crown of old men. Let me stop there. It says children's children are the crowns of old men. It's not saying the mothers. It's saying the old men. You all could take it how you want to take it, just off me reading it, because I'm not going to break it down. But I want you to question why it's saying that. Then it says, and the glory of children are their fathers.
And mine has a different translation.
I know it does, but what does a Hebrew word say?
Let's look that up.
Let's get
that. You know the Hebrew word for fathers, right? You know it. I know you know it. Let's go to it. I'm gonna read it in Hebrew for y'all.
Let's get the book.
Yeah,
the book. It say fathers, right? In Hebrew.
Where am I concorded?
Let me get the Hebrew.
It's gonna be very interesting what we find there.
Can. And this isn't to like. It's no shot. Let me go.
No.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. Because if we're Hebrews, we're gonna go off of what it's saying. That's just what I'm saying. And if you are, even if you Christians, if you claim that this is what you go by, man, it's a reason this is being said. Why I can't find it?
And not only that, you want to be able to, if we on a platform and we sharing opinions and even facts and teaching, you want to study thorough. You want to be thorough.
All right, here we go. Man, this is so small, but I'm gonna read it. Oh shit! Can y'all hear me?
Loud and clear.
It says Ataret Zechanim. So Zakain is elders. Zechanim is elders. Zakain is male elder. Zakina is female elder. Zakanim is elders. Zakanim b'nei banim. So we know banim is another form of children. Yeladim is more modern. Banim is more ancient. All right. We got Tif Aret Banim Abotam. What's the word for father, you all, in Hebrew? Ab, right? Or Abba?
Well, Hebrew it will be Ab.
Ab, right. In Hebrew is Ab, Aramaic is Abba, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is the word in Hebrew for mother in Aramaic and in Hebrew? Ladies? How do you say mother in Hebrew? How do you all normally say it? Ima, right? Where my ladies at? my ladies.
Sleeker. I'm sorry. I have my
I need confirmation. I need people to hear this.
Father is for plural is like Abba. If you saying my father is Abba. Mother is Ima. My mother is Emi.
Okay, so you have the reason I'm asking this question is so we can know what this word is. So Ima or aim in Hebrew, but Ima is what people know as mother, right? Abba is what people know as father or Ab in Hebrew. This word right here, this last word, is ebotam. Ebotam will be it's plural. Tom. That makes it plural, makes a word plural. Im makes a word plural. So I'm saying fathers, Abba, Abatam. So it's not mothers, it's fathers. It's a reason for this. So I just wanted to bring this out. Go ahead. What was you about to say?
My translation is saying parents.
I know. Do you know the word for parents in Hebrew? Hold on. I'm about to teach some. I'm about to teach some people.
Hey,
thank you for bringing this up. So the word for parents in Hebrew. Matter of fact, I could do better than that. Y'all ready for this? And I'm done after I do this, you all. But y'all came and asked the wrong person today. I'm about to share my screen. I just had a class today. And this is for everybody that's looking. There's only 4 people here right now, 4 or 5 people, but I want to show you this. She said that her book said parents. And I did say that before she said, I said some translation says what? They say parents. Let me bring this up for you all really quick. Chief, this ain't going to take no time.
No, dude, bring it up.
Where are you at? So it's not the subject pronouns, elementary, because I have some children to teach today. Elementary colors, part 1, part 2. So it's part 1. All right. So we have, here it is. There we go. Parents. There we go. So I'm about to pull this up and I'm going to share the screen, you all. I'm about to pull this up. Y'all picked the right person today. They picked it. I see you smiling there, Gaber. They picked them. How you do that? Where's the share the screen? All right, here we go. So I'm about to share my screen. This is for all of you and also for our coach Sharon. Windows should be tabs. Is this it right here? Yeah. All right. So the word for parents. Do you all see this? Can you see this? So remember I said the modern word for children is yeledim, right? But banim is biblical, more biblical. This is the word for parents right here. Horim.
Horim. Okay.
Remember when it says you're supposed to stand for the hoary headed?
Cain.
Horim is parents in Hebrew. Horeh is father parent. Horah is mother parent. Together is Horim. Just like right here, Yelda is girl, daughter, girl, daughter, or girl child. And Yeled is boy child. Together is Yeledim.
So how is that saying father?
Because the word for father is Ab.
Cain, but you saying that Horim together is parents.
Right.
So that would make the distinguish that mother and father together, but just not father separately.
Right. So the Hebrew word that you're looking at, and that's in Proverbs 17:6, it is abotam, ab, fathers, tom. So you got it's plural.
Okay, let me get my concordance.
Go ahead and get the concordance. It's going to say fathers. It's not going to say parents.
Okay. Ooh, I love this. I love it.
I also like how you use for your graphics that you use Doc McStuffin there.
I use what?
Doc McStuffin. You see the picture?
Yeah. What we talking?
Where it's pointing to the yellow D? No,
Doc. Yeah, that's.
Yeah, my daughter. She was a big fan of Doc McStuffin. A year or two ago.
Okay. So likely y'all that's tuning in, I just wanted to bring that out. I wanted to bring that out.
Let me see. Hold on, where did he go
at? He dropped off. You know why he dropped off, right?
I'm here. My bad, you all. I was trying to erase the share, but as a
I
Yahoo.
was about to throw another shot at iPhones. I'm sorry. I got to stop.
No. This is a computer, man. So Azariyahu, he put Im and Ab. So it's Aim in Hebrew is Aim. Father is Ab in Hebrew. So that's why you have Abotam. You know what I'm saying? Because like
Proverbs 17
and 6.
verse 6. Okay. I'm going to look at that later on.
Trust me, Hebrew is my thing. You know what I'm saying? So when you have that at the end, matter of fact, let me show you one more thing and I'm done. And we're gonna get back to the topic. You started something. Just I want to show you something really quick.
Oh no, I love it. You know, my Abba used to do this. Man, him used to, you know, he used to do the Hebrew thoroughly.
So let's go to the object pronouns real quick. Right. All right. So Abotam will be now. Watch this, Chief. Let me ask Chief a question real quick. What is the word for fathers? Because Abotam is not fathers.
No, the word for fathers is abot.
Abot. Now, why does it say Abotam? Is a question. Somebody mute. Hold on, it's a lot of background noise. All right, so here we go. Right here, you ready for this? I call Sharon.
Okay.
All right, so say that again, Chief. How do you say fathers in Hebrew?
Right, fathers in Hebrew is abot.
Abot. Now watch this. You ready for this? Ready for this? I call Sharon. Watch this. All right, so here it is. Is this it? No, that's not the one I want to show. Subject, object, pronoun. So for those
plural is abot.
So abot is plural for fathers, but why does it say abotam? I'm about to show you why it says abotam. Yes, I gotta pull this up. It's right here though. Object, pronoun, them. Abotam.
Okay? That's not grandfather, is it?
No. It's still fathers, but the tom makes it something. Watch this. It does. I'm trying to pull it up. Why is it not pulling up? Let me cancel this. And then I'm done, you all. We're going to continue this. But this is beautiful for those that want to know, want to learn this.
Abotam. What they were saying, our fathers?
Nope. Because our fathers will be Abonu, maybe?
Yep. Abinu.
Yeah, Abinu. So our fathers be Abinu. But so their fathers, because that's what the English is trying to translate. It's trying to translate it to their parents. This is what your English version say. Their parents.
Oh,
right?
Okay, I see. So Abotom is their fathers.
Their fathers. But I'm trying to pull something up, and if I can't pull it up, I'm just gonna say it to you.
But I do. But looking at the text, I understand why the translation is saying
their parents. I get it.
I see what they're angling because again it has. I think it has a lot to do with the like when you look at the term zakwanim. Now we know that an elder man is a zakwain.
Yeah.
An elder woman is a zakwinah. Right. But if you were to say, let's say that there was a group of elders, some of them were men, some of them were women. What would you call that collective?
It'll be a zakanim.
Right. Okay. So I think the translator, the Safari translators was like, well, there might have been some elder women in there, and if it is, we would still put zakwanim to cover that. Maybe that's their reason for it.
The reason I say no to that, reason I say no. Do anybody know what them is in Hebrew for object pronoun?
No, I was trying to pull it up. Not off top.
Right. I was trying to pull it up. It won't come up for some reason. So the object pronoun for them, which them parents, what would you translate them parents or them fathers as? If there's no way of saying their.
Collectively, a group of fathers.
Right. So otam is a word for them. You have otan. You have otan. You have otan for all women. Otam is for a mix, like Chief Prince Zebulon just said. It'll be a mix of men and women. Here's the thing: they would have said horim. If it was parents, they would have said the word horim. It's not like in the Hebrew text we don't have the word for hori or hore up in there.
Mm-hmm.
They would have said horim. The reason they say it's in. Let's go to see, we're going to a whole different thing with this whole.
Yeah, we gotta stay on.
So, okay, let's go.
Okay, hold on. But
last thing I'm gonna say real quick. Last thing I'm gonna say is the text is very consistent because it goes from I'm about to pull it up right now, the E sword. So it goes from 17:6, right?
17:6. Does your translation says grandchildren are the crown of their elders? Mine says elders. Do yours have a different translation?
Right. It says elders, but it says the one that I read said grand. I forgot what I got to go to it, but it says zakanim. So this is why I agree with this part of him. Zakanim
Gotcha.
is just elders,
Okay.
sons of the elders, right?
Like both male and female, right?
Right. But then you go to this one and it says, but the sons are the splendor or the
right
of the has its fathers in this one. It would have to say horim. It's literally saying abo tam. The ab cannot be connected to the ima or the aim. It would have to say horim.
So go ahead.
No, that's it. That's all I got.
Do you agree with the misconception as far as male and female when a father raises, because they say sons supposed to be with their father, daughter's supposed to be with their mother. Do you agree with that misconception that a man cannot raise his daughter?
I don't agree with it.
Okay.
I understand that a woman would be a better teacher to a daughter to be a woman.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't agree that a man can't raise a woman because I think that the good thing about a man being able to raise a daughter is that not only can he show you what a man will want,
mm-hmm.
but he can show you also what to look out for in a man because he is a man.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the difference right there. Being a man and being able to show you what to look for in a man and what a man thinks and what a man does, how he moves, being a man. And he also could teach you what a good man or a righteous man would want. A woman could teach you how to be, this is my opinion, a woman could teach you how to be a great woman if she's that, but she cannot teach you the inner thoughts of a man.
Mm-hmm.
She could teach you what she's been through with men. She could point out what a good man could be, this and that. But a man will be able to bring out so many different variables pertaining to a man. That's the only difference. So I don't agree with the misconception.
I'm on the fence.
Hey, I get you, but like I'm living it right now. The reason I say I'm living it because I got a daughter, and the stuff I'm teaching her, her mom has not even told her. And I know that's anecdotal. But I'm just saying what I see.
But I believe men are supposed to be the first love example of their daughters.
Okay.
If that's a good man, you supposed to show that daughter what to expect of a man that's trying to court you or have any interest in you. I'm conflicted in regards to whether or not a woman, and I may get bashed for this, can do this because we are emotional creatures and what we desire as individuals can be very different depending on our emotional needs, mental needs, spiritual needs, physical needs, or whatever. For me, a father is very important in a daughter's life. That's her first demonstration of love. Very important in a boy's life because that's the first demonstration of a man. You don't come into a boy's life at 12 years old and then start teaching him how to be a man. That's something that you teaching him from the time he's walking around, whatever. I mean, it's different levels to it, but a father is always involved, whether it's a male or female. It may be on a different level that they're being taught, but they're always involved. And again, I may get bashed for this as well. Sometimes I do feel that depending on the father's disposition, that they are a better fit, because a lot of the emotional feelings are removed, and you looking at strictly like, no, you know, you have to do this. As women, we're emotional creatures. You know what I mean? We see our children cry. You want to stop that. You want to mend that. You want to accommodate that. But you gotta look beyond that moment of their emotional breakdown for that moment. What's going to benefit you in the future? And I don't know, like, all I can say is that my kids tell me I'm thank you for being a hard mom. Again, you guys know I have 2 boys. They've never seen the back of a police car. Neither one of my children have encountered the law, but they were just like, you had a rough stick. And that may not have been the best way to be, but that was how I was taught, being raised by my grandparents. But I do believe that good men, and I don't mean good by your pockets of being filled.
Okay.
I do not mean that all the way, because maybe it's me. I was a young mother. You know what I mean? And also having a young father. So neither one of our pockets was filled. So you got to meet in the middle. A lot of the responsibilities were met by the parents that were involved from both sides. But either way, that's not saying that that person's not going to get themselves together, and they did in this instance. So I don't know. I think both roles are very, very important. And again, I may be bashed for this because I had to do it. I had the t-shirt to wear it. I raised my son to a certain point, and when I left Virginia to move to Maryland in 2001, he said he didn't want to go. He wanted to stay with his father. Mm-hmm. I felt like I had did my due diligence up to that point, that the remaining was on his father. That's how I felt. It wasn't easy, but there was nothing else further. He was 12 years old. So I don't know. I think it can be done by both, but I think if you're talking about this society right now, it's not set up for our fathers to be like that for our children. It's not. It's very difficult for them. That's all I have to say.
We done made another show.
Right.
No, I mean, but I mean,
my fault, y'all. My fault.
People like to say, oh, bashing, people are going to get bashed for it. But listen, numbers bear out.
Oh, I'm supposed to be looking up the stats.
The numbers bear out. When you think about single mothers, and I'm saying this in totality, not anecdotal situations where it doesn't pan out. But generally speaking, when you look at this generation, you can tell that the males that have been raised up in this generation, that were raised by single mothers,
okay,
the mothers were able to raise them to be adult males, but they don't have the information to teach them how to be men, unless they are men on the low. Only a man can teach a boy how to be a man, just like a father. Listen, and I'm saying this as a father who has a daughter. As much as I would love to teach my daughter everything as possible, but there are things that I absolutely cannot teach her that only her mother can give her.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
I could teach my daughter how to be an adult female. But
that's the part I was talking more so
right.
Too.
No, absolutely. I don't have the information on how for my daughter to be a woman. I can freestyle. I can say, oh, I think a woman would do this, and yeah, maybe. But at the end of the day, only a woman can give a master class to a daughter.
Okay.
And
Okay.
only a father can give a master class of manhood to a son. We're talking about manhood and womanhood as opposed to, adult women and adult males. Both genders can give information about being of growing up to be adult males. We have all that information. But as a man, I can never say, oh no, I could definitely raise her to be a woman. I'm lying. That's just my ego trying to say, no, you can do it all. No, I cannot. That's why the Most High said it is not good for you to be alone.
Okay.
So, but with that said, did everybody actually go on this topic?
No, I was the only one. My bad.
Oh wow, I was about to slide on in, thinking that everybody had already went. Well, no, I mean, if you want to hammer it out,
I'm good.
Okay, no, like I said, I thought we
went on a whole different topic because of me with this Hebrew.
No, but that's another. That's what it do. But no, but to the point about divorce, because I wanted to ask, when we says when a man divorces a woman, she must leave her children behind and leave without them. Now, there's a lot of loaded stuff in this right here, because there's a couple of things that we kind of have to first straighten out. So when we talk about divorce, custody, listen, custody really depends on, you would have to look at what were the reasons for the divorce. Because if the father, let's say if the father was a foul dude and was wicked as hell, wicked as all outdoors, the question for the judges would be, as the father, should he get custody of the children? Considering his character.
Right.
Probably not. Even I think even an all-male council would be like, nah, it's gonna be a no for me, dog. You can't, and you, because obviously you would give the children to the woman who did not do anything wrong. She was the victim, and vice versa. If it turns out that the woman was the one who created the skullduggery, should she get custody of the children? This is something that our ancestors wrestled with for millennium, because we understood that custody, parental custody, it was an evolving science. Because from book to book in the scriptures, we don't see the same exact approach to the question of child custody. So, for instance, and the two major examples is what happened with Abraham and Sarah and Hagar.
Yeah.
Why didn't Ishmael stay with his father? Why did Sarah say, listen, get that chick and her son up out of here? Now, of course, Abraham, he's the Lord of his house. He could have said, hey, woman, shut your mouth, whatever. But why did he kind of look at it and say, oh, she is?
But he wasn't
handmaid.
going to get rid of it. He wasn't going to get rid of them at first. The Most High had to intervene.
No, but think about it. He said, hey, she's in your hands. I mean, that's your girl. You brought her into this situation. I didn't ask for her. You did. So, but the point is that regardless of what Hagar did or didn't do and all that, Ishmael was still his son. Ishmael should have been right there with Yitzchak, and Abraham should have maybe went upside Ishmael's head like, hey, listen, that's just your brother, boy. What the hell are you mocking your brother? Whatever, like that. He should have straightened his son out. But we don't see that. Now that's a very important situation. And then you fast forward 1,500 years, give or take. 1,500? Yeah, about 1,500. We'll just say round about 1,500. Look at the situation that happens in the book of Nehemiah.
Yeah, 1,500.
Oh, yeah.
In the book of Nehemiah, where he's like, he said, in those days, I saw Israelites who took these damn foreign women and had children. These children spoke half in the language of Ashdod and could not speak in the Yehudim language. And what he said, listen, separate yourself from these wives. And they were told to send these women and the children off. Why didn't those men say, whoa, wait a minute now. that's still my son. I should be able to, yeah, okay, fine. I'll send the woman out of here, but that's still my son. Why did Nekemia feel it necessary to say no? Her and the children gone. Now that causes a problem because we're like, well, wait a minute. Haven't we always been taught that, well, the father, you are what your father is, so the son should obviously stay with the father? But our ancestors began to see that there's a lot of murky area in that. Everything is not black and white in them scenarios. So the elders, who later on became the Pharisees, they argued about this for centuries. And the last writings of our ancestors on the matter, after that, I'm not going to get into what the Khazars said and what their opinions on the issue is, but the last writings of our ancestors about child custody in the Mishnah, and I think it's, it was the crystallization of all of the arguments and the debates and trying to find what works and what may not work in custody situations. And this is what they came to the conclusion of. It's a 3-point criteria. It says that, and of course, it also assumes that the divorce, and I have to be clear about this, the assumption is that the divorce was an amicable one, where it was just, we're not on the same page. It's just best for us to split. There was no evil, the woman didn't go and wild out and he didn't. It was just, hey, listen, the compatibility is not there, and we're just going to leave apart ways amicably. So the Mishnah makes that clear, because anything else, that's murky water. But in the divorce, it says, point 1 is that custody of all children under the age of 6 has to be given to the mother. Period. All children under the age of 6 has to go to the mother. Part 2 says custody of boys over the age of 6 is to be given to the father. And then third, custody of girls over the age of 6 is to be given to the mother. So if you're under 6, all the children have to go with the mother. And the reason for that is obvious. Because these are not adolescents. These are still babies. A 2-year-old, a 3-year-old, they still need their mother. They're still going through the weaning process, all that. They need their mother. But after the age of 6, the boy has to go with his father, because he needs that father. And the daughter goes with the mother. But of course, this is once again considering that both parents are on the level and both parents are Hebrews, whatever like that. So these are best case scenarios. But what our ancestors tried to do, they tried to figure out what would be the most equitable way to go about custody where neither party loses. See, we don't see that today. Today it's all or nothing.
Facts.
Either the man is going to get you don't get no custody of nothing. Give it to children, give it to the mother. The mother could be high on crack in the street. You could be making 6 figures, and they're like, nah, give it to the mother. And you're like, well, what the? So we don't see that today. But in ancient times, this is what our ancestors were trying to say. We're like, oh, listen, in a divorce situation, nobody should lose. Everybody should win. The father gets the boy or the boys, the mother gets the girls, and if the children are under 6, they have to go to the mother until they reach the age of 6, and then whatever.
I got a question about that though, real quick.
Yeah,
about the girl. So the girl basically goes with the mom, no matter what. If she's a good mom, I'm guessing.
Right. All of that. Yeah. Right.
You said under 6, children stay.
Right.
After 6, the only one that goes with the father is the boy. The girl still stays with the mom. That's what you're saying. And then the Mishnah. Can you explain to the people that might be listening too, real quick, that don't have an understanding of, because when people hear the word Mishnah or Talmud, they get into like, can you explain why you had said, I ain't dealing with the ones and with the Khazars came or whatever, cool, but we talking about, can you give them just those that's listening, they might want to know.
No, absolutely. And anytime you're dealing with the anything after the Apocrypha of the New Testament, you always got to quantify it with some type of historical references before people start putting their hands up like, oh, what the hell are they talking about on the show? Like, yeah, that's not Yah content.
That's exactly why I stopped. I wanted you to bring it out because they
Right.
could be like, wait, they talking about Mishnah and stuff? Oh, no, we
Right.
ain't watching that no more. No, go ahead.
Yeah, no. I mean, it's actual fact. But the short answer to that is, the short explanation is, after the time of or during the time of Ezra and Nehemiah, when the Israelites had came back from Babylonia and Persia after the 70-year captivity, they were at a crossroad. They were, as far as the people. Somebody said, Black App said, I want to know. LOL.
I told you.
Yeah.
Let's get
now
it.
they listening. They're like, yeah, what these?
Hey, this is why he's a historian, man. I'm telling you, this man is a freaking encyclopedia. Go ahead.
But
all praise.
Yeah, all praise to the Most High. So when Ezra and Nehemiah and all of the those Southern Kingdom Israelites who were coming back from the Babylonian / Persian captivity, well, the Babylonian captivity and the Persian exile, because they went in under Babylon, but 70 years later, Babylon had fallen and Persia was now the power at the time. So when they came out of that situation, they came back to the land to rebuild. One of the things that they realized is that, well, circumstances have changed, times have changed, people have changed, cultures have changed, and now they needed a way to interpret the law so that it was comprehensible in their time. It was comprehensible to Moshe, but that was over 1,000 years prior to. Circumstances weren't the same.
Okay.
So they had to reinterpret the law. They took the law and says, okay, in this circumstance, how do we apply this law, and that law under these circumstances? Because we're not under our own rulership anymore. We are now under the rulership of Persia. We're under the rulership of Medea. We're under the rulership of Greece and Rome and so on and so forth. So how do we interpret the law? You know what I'm saying? So that it's applicable. So in the process of that, there was a group of scriptural scholars who started with Ezra, a group of scriptural scholars that you start to see rise up from that time, but really became prominent during the Greco-Roman period time during Greece. And in the Apocrypha, this group of scholars were called the Assyrians. In the if you look at the first, I think it's the first book of Maccabees, they're referred to as the Assyrians, and these were what they referred to as the masters of the law. That's who you went to understand law. You didn't go to the priests, you went to these guys, the Assyrians. The Hebrew term for Assyrians is Chassidim. The Chassidim. This is what they were called during the Maccabean period. Now you fast forward a century later, they no longer called the Chassidim. They took on the term that Ezra coined. If you look in the scriptures where it's in the scripture in the book of Ezra and Nehemiah, where it says that Ezra caused the people, they read the book of law out to the people, and it says, and caused the people to understand the sense of it.
Okay.
The word that they use to explain that process is parash.
Uh-oh.
To break down, meaning to parash means to break down, to take something and systematically dissect it. That group of Hebrew scholars called the Assyrians or the Chassidim, when you get to the time of the first century in the New Testament, they are now called the Pharisees. The word Pharisee comes from parushim, those who dissect.
Mm-hmm.
Because these were the only Israelites who could read the law and say, this is what that law means. The priests could not do that anymore because we know that the priests, they were working for the Roman government. So you couldn't trust them to tell you what the Torah says because they're going to lead you into Roman ways. So the Pharisees were like, no. And this is why the common people, if you read when you read the history of the New Testament, they said that the common people of that time, they loved the Pharisees because the Pharisees, they genuinely loved the people. They wanted to teach the people. They wanted to get them to show them how to utilize the law and practice it in real time. So during the process of that group of scholars doing what they were doing and interpreting the law and showing people how to implement it in day-to-day life, they began to write these concepts down. They began to write these lessons down in a writing and say, okay, you know what I'm saying, according to this particular teacher, it could have been Hillel, it could have been Shammai, it could have been Avtalion, all of these different elders and scholars. This scholar said this about this subject, and they would list how he viewed the Shabbat or how he viewed marriage and so on and so forth. And they kept record. And that record had been kept in writing. It started around 220, 225 BCE. And the writings kept going until roughly about the 2nd century, 240 AD, ACE maybe. So, but just give or take 400-year period, all of those writings were being copied down, being written down, and then eventually they were brought together into one volume. Well, eventually into one volume, and it was loosely referred to as the Mishnah. But part of the Mishnah ended up being some of the books that you see in the Apocrypha. The book of Ecclesiasticus or Ben Sirach is one of the earliest writings of the Pharisees. So that's Israelites who are reading the Apocrypha, and you hate the Pharisees, you got to throw the Apocrypha away, because every single book of the Apocrypha was written by the Pharisees. It's the earliest writings of that group of Israelite scholars. So, and this is just talking strictly history. Now, whether you have a theological issue with the Pharisees, that's fine. That's a different issue. But just dealing with strictly history, they were the ones who preserved all of those traditions, all of these traditions and interpretations of law, and how we're able to activate the law in our in real time. So the Mishnah, what we now are calling the Mishnah, are the later books that were compiled. The Apocrypha and the Pseudepigrapha, all of those type of writings, those were the earlier books. The Mishnah that we hear about today, those were like the final writings of Israelite Pharisees, of the Israelite scholars. After the Mishnah, and again, we're talking like after 200 AD, it gets murky. Okay. So in the Talmud, even the Jews, when they deal with the Talmud, they distinguish between the writings of the Israelites of that time and the writings of theirs. They call the Israelite writings the Mishnah, and they call their own writings, the Jewish people call their own writings the Gemara.
Damn. You're giving them that history now.
So you have the Mishnah and the Gemara. The Gemara is nothing but the interpretation. It is the Jewish interpretation of the Mishnah. So they're interpreting our work. The Mishnah is interpreting the Torah and interpreting the words of the prophets, so on and so forth. So when people are dealing, or when they hear about the term Talmud, we have to be very clear what we're talking about. So the first part of the Talmud is called the Mishnah. Those are the actual writings of Israelite scholars from the 2nd century BC to the 2nd century ACE or AD. Anything after that is questionable, especially when you get to the 6th century. Then it's not even, we know it's not ours. That's just, those are the Khazars, that's what they were writing. But the Mishnah itself, by itself, without the Gemara, those are the final writings of the Israelites of that time period. So if we were to just give a chronology, you would have the Torah. And by Torah, I mean the first 5 books. You have the Torah, you have the prophets with a little overlapping of the writings. And then after you have the writings, which should end around the time of Ezra, the book of First and Second Chronicles, those are the final books of the scriptures. After that, you then have the overlapping of the Apocrypha and the Mishnah, and then you go into the New Testament period. But there's some overlapping. So again, like I said, that's the short version of it. So when we speak about the Mishnah, I want people to understand, and I think and I echo the sentiment of Chief Shema when I say this, that we want to be clear, and we want y'all to be clear, that when we speak about the Mishnah, understand that those are Israelite writings. We're not talking about the other part of the Talmud called the Gemara. We don't have no parts of that, although we do study it so that we understand what they're thinking. But those are not our writings. Our writings is the Mishnah. That's the final Israelite testimonies in the 1st or 2nd century ADE or ACE.
Okay, we got some coming in 2022 and 2021. You know what I'm saying? Be on the lookout. But because that's what we did as Israelites, we wrote stuff down, literature, wisdom for our people. But I did want to go ahead.
Oh no, and just to wrap up the point about the custody situation. So that's why what you bringing out to give that explanation about what the Mishnah is. This is how our ancestors, after using all of these different texts and trying to figure out what would be the most equitable way to go about dealing with custody situations. Because think about it. In the Torah, there is no law that governs custody of children.
No. I was trying to tell people. Hold on, Chief, before you go forward. Look, I love this. Today's show was amazing. It still is amazing. Think about it, you all. He just said it is no law in the Torah to govern something like that. Some people say, well, that's because it wasn't meant to. No, in the Torah law, it talks about divorce. How do you govern this? So when we're bringing up stuff like the Mishnah, and we're bringing up stuff how these wise men and or women that looked at our past laws, the law is literally, and I said this, and if I'm wrong, may the elders correct me. The law is like the skeleton. It is the foundation of how, or a starting point. It was a reason, as Chief Prince had brought out in past shows, that judges was in place, that elders are in place to look at these laws, to build from these laws. So, great question, Gebeda. I don't know if it was a question you said, Gebeda, Kathy, but Chief, you brought out. I didn't even know that about the Mishnah. Now it's like, okay, I guess it is some wisdom, but I want to keep my daughter.
No. I mean, and again, but even with that said, this is just what they came. What was the most equitable situation at that point in time?
Okay.
Now it hasn't changed since, because for the most part, I mean, it probably can't get no more equitable than that, because in that scenario, nobody loses.
Yeah.
The woman doesn't lose. The man doesn't lose.
That's good.
All is well. So it's not like a lopsided situation where the man runs off with everything and the woman is just like, oh, you took my children, and vice versa. The man is sitting there like, so what? I can't have my children? I can't see my children? So this is what they were trying to do. But the funny thing is, we don't even have to go into the Mishnah to understand these concepts, because even when we were quoting, and you pulled it up, what was it, Proverbs 17?
Mm-hmm.
That is an example of Mishnah, because Proverbs 17 is not law. That is not Torah. When I say Torah, I'm talking about the actual law, commandments.
Yeah.
Proverbs is what was a wise man. I believe Proverbs 17 was Solomon's work, because some of it is from a later time, other Israelite scholars of after him. But I think Proverbs 17 is Solomon. But this was Solomon's view of the situation. But we also got to keep in mind that, but there's no law. There's nothing. Moshe gave us nothing along the lines of what to do with the children if a divorce happens. It only deals with the divorce, and it only deals with the divorce under the premise of what? Of some type of adultery or idolatry.
Okay. And
then what to do with, and that's it. So when you hear people say, well, if it's not in the law, then then there's nothing in the law that deals with custody. So what are we supposed to do with the children in a divorce? And that's why the elders figured that out. And they're like, well, you know what? We got to address this, because people are going to be running rampant, doing whatever they wanted to. So they had to come up with these concepts in order to take the law and interpret it, not just interpret it the way they want to, but to expound on it so that there was an understanding how to go forward with it.
Okay. What was you about to say, Coach Ron? Was that you or was that Gebeda Kathy?
It was me. That's why I had used that scripture, and I think it was in Deuteronomy, that talks about when a man does divorce his wife, he takes the children and she leaves without the children, and she go on about her business. That's kind of, without using the verbals that you mentioned, Chief Zabul, and without using the context, to my understanding, I thought that would be the set tone
What-
of what to do with the children when a divorce happened. That would be like the set tone of the custody.
What's the scripture
what
again?
text, I was going to ask you, what text was that? You're referring to in Deuteronomy?
I think, Kane, I think it was in Deuteronomy.
Okay, do you have an idea of what it said? Or close to what it said? We could probably pull it up, perhaps. Oh, you have it. You got it, Kathy? Gabetta, Kathy? Oh, I thought you put it.
Yeah, no, I wanted to see. That's why because that's why I was saying, because unless perhaps I overlooked this particular precept.
So it's I can't pinpoint it now. I I'm not good of a Torah locator. However, I
like
can,
that term you just said. I would start saying
Torah locator.
My brother,
scripture located perspective.
Scripture locator.
Yeah, that's
take your time, sis.
That right there.
But it is a scripture that says when a man divorces his wife, he gives her a bit of divorce, and she shall leave without nothing, and the children stays with the father.
What scripture is that? That's what I was trying to locate.
I know that last part.
And she must go back to her father's house and leave the children. She leaves with nothing, and she goes back to her father's house.
I do recall that part that you say leave with nothing. The children part I don't recall. But if
I gotta get it.
But no. What you said about leave with nothing, I remember that part. I promise you, I think I do.
So
what scripture are you reading out of, sister?
That's what I'm saying. I can't really pinpoint what scripture it is, but I think it is somewhere in Deuteronomy, in the book of Deuteronomy.
He's pulling it up right now. I bet you.
However, without using the variables in the context that Chief Zabulon had mentioned, as far as like the dude may not be a good dude, or what's up, I looked at that scripture like it was the set tone of what to do with the children when a divorce, arouses itself in the situation. I looked at that as the set custody of, I looked at that as the set tone of custody matters between a man and his wife, or when a divorce does come about. That's without using the context and the variables that Chief Zabulon had mentioned.
Because there was a blank on the screen. I didn't hear a certain segment of what you were saying for like the past 20 seconds. Did anybody bring up the actual text? Because I didn't hear it.
We didn't bring up the text, but I do remember what she said is in the text. I've read it. It said, if you say it again, so he could hear it. Because when you say it, I know he gonna know.
So if a man finds something unseemly in his wife, what he shall do is give her a bit of divorce, send her out his house. She goes back to her father's house. She leaves without nothing, and leaves the children with their Abba, with the father. So when I did come across that scripture, it does give the impression, without using the context and the variables that you mentioned, Chief. Without using those variables in context, it would give the impression of what to do with the children when a divorce, when you are in a situation where men and women divorce.
That almost sounds like the text that discusses the actual bill of divorce. Is that what you're referring to?
Okay, it does, but it also is adjacent to giving us instructions on what to do with the children as well, amongst a divorce situation, amongst a situation where a man divorced his wife.
Okay,
can you like Google?
So everything she said, I know is there outside of the children part, but the leave with nothing kind of implies what I hope is bringing out. Not saying it's right or wrong, but I see where she's coming from with that leave with nothing part. Because what if they had children? If you leave with nothing, some could be like, okay, we'll just leave with no clothes and all that stuff or whatever, money, go back to your dad. You could take the children. But then it also could mean you leave with nothing. Children stay.
But it gives specifics on what to do with the children.
It does in the literature.
Once the man give him once the man give her a bit of divorce.
You
But
got it, Chief?
let me get my
Yeah,
Quran.
no, because we're gonna definitely gonna need the text, because anything that we say from this point on without the text would be a wild conjecture. Like I might say something and it could be
I might say
completely
something.
wrong.
Right.
And all so at this point I think we should just maybe
Go to the text.
push on to something else, but find the text, and then we can address it directly. We'll have the text laid out, and then there'll be no further questions after the fact.
Okay. All right. We have someone that says so the parent that didn't commit the offense should get the children regardless, right?
And we actually spoke about that a little while ago, that this is what the elders and who eventually became the Pharisees or whatever, this is what they were like talking about. Say, well, wait a minute. So if the person who did the offense, they should still be rewarded?
Mm-hmm.
Because what if it was the man who did, who committed the adultery and a divorce occurs? And that kind of goes into whether a woman can file a bill of divorce, but that's another story. Yeah. But again.
So if we were back in the land, if someone committed adultery, they would be deceased.
Yeah, they probably would not get custody then.
Right.
Exactly. So are we referring more so again to now?
Well, and again, I think like we spoke of earlier, these situations was an evolving science. Like we have the laws, we have the laws. That's our case law. But when circumstances started to happen that didn't always fit into the black and white constraint of a particular law, the Most High, of course, already anticipated a situation like that these things would happen. So what did he say? Oh, by the way, set up judges in all your gates.
Okay.
So just in case, because we know that how life operates, very rarely do situations ever fall directly within the confines of a single law. For instance, is killing somebody wrong?
Don't ask me, because you know what I'm gonna say.
Yeah. Is killing wrong? Most people will say yes. Well, of course, killing is wrong. Well, if that were the case, there wouldn't be.
But isn't there a difference between killing, murder, and self-defense? And you know what I mean?
No, and that's the point. And our ancestors understood that, and so they the law says what? Murderers, they get death. Manslayers, because circumstances, he might have not meant to kill the person, but a situation happens. So what do? They give them cities of refuge.
I was gonna say we have a house of, city or house of refuge. Right. So okay,
and these scenarios assume that things are not going to always be black and white. You know what I'm saying? Like for instance, there's a law. I believe it's Deuteronomy 24, the law that says that about a man who has crushed testicles or his private member cut off, he cannot enter into the congregation. Right now, that's the law. But now our ancestors, they thought, well, what if the person was born with their situation damaged? Does that still count as having them mutilate? And they debated it. They're like, well, you can't really hold a person accountable if they were born with their situation damaged. I mean, obviously that wasn't their fault, but a eunuch, a person who says, you know what, I'm going to cut this off in order to serve the Lord. Like, no, you guys can't come in, whatever. But this is how the law was set up. The law was set up so that the judges would have to interpret the law. Every circumstance is going to require someone to sit down and say, okay, well, the law says this, but the circumstances doesn't quite fit in that law. So how do we deal with this situation? And that's when you get books like Proverbs. This is like you get books like the Apocrypha, Ben Sirach, all of these books that are giving you wisdom in certain circumstances that you can't find case law in the first 5 books. And it was done. I'm of the school that believes that the Most High did it deliberately, that he gave us foundational teachings, but gave us the intelligence to be able to take that law and say, how do I now apply it here in this circumstance?
I wish all the Israelites around the United States would listen to Y'all Conscious Radio.
Well, that would be kind of cool.
Coach Sharon, you got something? I know. I don't know if you had anything. Good better, Kathy.
I'm actually looking for the portion.
I know which one you're talking about too. I just don't know it off the top of my freaking head.
So I'm looking at Deuteronomy 24, first chapter. I mean, first verse. However, it's not.
That's what I was just looking at, sis. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go. Run with it.
Deuteronomy 24:1. Devarim 24:1.
Yeah, actually, quite a few verses going down as well. But yeah, when a man has taken a wife and married her, and it comes to pass that she finds no favor in his eyes, because he has found some uncleanliness in her. That's such a horrible translation, but uncleanliness in her. Then let him write her a bill of divorcement and give it to her in her hand and send her out of his house. And when she is departed out of his house, she may go and be another man's wife. And if the latter husband hate her and write her a bill of divorcement and gives it to her in her hand and sends her out of this house, or if the latter husband die, which took her to be his wife, her former husband, which sent her away, may not take her again to be his wife. After that, she is defiled. For that is an abomination before the Lord, and you shall not cause the land to sin, which the Lord your God gives you for an inheritance.
Right, going back to the old husband. Basically.
So I have 3 Torahs open, and each of the Torah it does have a different translation. However, it does kind of pretty much say the same thing. So what I'm gonna do tonight, I'm gonna look through Numbers and Leviticus, because it does say a chapter. For an example, it gives you a chapter of about wearing your tassels. It has 2 different translations in Numbers and one in
Deuteronomy 22:12.
Yeah.
You're gonna bring.
So I don't know if Deuteronomy 24, if it's another translation or if it's another scripture in Leviticus or Numbers. So I'm gonna try to do that research tonight, because I'm sitting here like, I know I'm not tripping. I know I've read that before, but hey, I probably am tripping, y'all.
No, we growing. We going through this script. I mean, just the fact that in my opinion, like I said, when I heard you say it, like just the fact that you just had it down, at least 98% of it is like, you got Torah study in you. I could tell, you know what I'm saying? I love it. And a lot of men, a lot of women don't. And that's why I love this platform, because we going from the literature, going to regular life, you know what I'm saying? It's lovely. You know what I'm saying? And our women on here and me and she, we all just building together. So all praises.
And real quick, just as a just to kind of backtrack a little bit, what we were speaking about earlier concerning the issue with the Mishnah, because I've had these discussions with people prior, and I think it's very important for people to know that, because I've heard the arguments, people like, oh, well, that's not the law, that's not, that didn't come from the Most High, so we should not. It's like, well, and many of the people who are bucking against that are also individuals who utilize the literature of the New Testament as case law for their salvation. Now, with that said, the writings of Paul, everything outside of the Gospels, would be considered the Mishnah of the New Testament.
Facts. They gotta understand what Mishnah means.
because Paul himself said on many occasions things that he uttered that he felt that his followers in the various churches, that what they should do or should not do. He would make statements like, "For such there is no law."
So Paul did disagree, correct? That's my understanding.
When you say disagree, what?
I mean, like he wasn't really like following suit with everything that his comrades, I guess, were, you know what I mean, trying to implement and enforce.
He was a lone wolf. This is why when you read throughout his letters, you begin to see that all of the people who were dealing with him, they all parted ways with him. Peter parted ways, James parted ways, Barnabas parted ways. What's the brother? The brother from Apollos parted ways. Like, he was pretty much a lone wolf. But even with all that said, that the writings of Paul would basically be the Mishnah of the New Testament, because these are his understandings. So when he tells men that they should not have long hair, and he says he was like that there was no law pertaining to that. He understands that this is his particular understanding, but that is his understanding, because there's nothing in the law that says that a man should not have long hair. Now, we could make a little bit of leeway for the Levites, because obviously, okay, Levites have to look a certain way, but the Levites is a very specific situation. But to say that a man has long hair, it is, saying it is a shame or whatever. It's like, well, no, that's. But he makes it clear that, hey, this is my tradition. This is my understanding. So I tell people that we should not be so hard against the idea of interpretations and traditions, because most of what we practice, no matter what book you're talking about, most of what we practice is in fact tradition.
Okay.
I'll give you one example, and then I'll
wait. Repeat what you just said, Chief, for the people that's listening, for those that tune back in. Welcome to Y'all Conscious Radio. If it's not Y'all Conscious, it's not acceptable. Go ahead, Chief, because they have to understand. We got to get y'all to understand.
Right. And Judah Moshe, he posted, he said, anytime he spoke as a man, he said it. When he said, for such there is no law, he was talking about a law of carnal mind, not Torah. Right. So, I mean, so there was an understanding that we're dealing with traditions, and most of what we practice in modern times as Hebrew Israelites, most of what we practice is based on traditions of our ancestors and interpretations of our ancestors. I'll give you a prime example. This might ruffle some feathers.
Go ahead and ruffle the feathers, man. This is Y'all Conscious Radio. Let's go.
Question. You have Hebrews who wear the tassels on the four corners, the four tassels on each side, whatever like that. And on each one of those tassels, what do they put? They put the blue cord, right?
Mm-hmm.
Show me that in the Torah.
Da, 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 da,
Now,
da, da.
Now, and I'm saying that as someone who comes out of the tradition that said this is what you do, and I have no problem with it. But what I'm going to show you is that the tassels, the four tassels on the garments, that was a tradition that was started by Nasi Yaakov. What he did was he combined the law of Numbers chapter 15, 38 and 40 with Deuteronomy 22:12. Those two laws are not the same law. If you read the scripts, the word for tassels or fringes are not the same words. The word for fringes in Numbers 15, 38 through 40 is talking about when you see brothers who have the fringes that go all the way around their shirt or their long garment, those are what are the scriptures refer to as tzitziot, literally fringes. Deuteronomy 22:12 uses the word gedalim, which means something that is twisted or tied. These are two completely different laws that apply to two different garments that a person would wear. The fringes would be for the longer garment, the garment that would normally, or the ketonet that would go down to the calf or to the ankle, and they would have the fringes with the border of blue going around there. Then you would have the and I forget the actual biblical term for the outer cloak, but it would be a shorter cloak. It's shorter than the one that goes to the ankle. He put that cloak on.
My bad. He said he's speaking facts. Listen up, you Hamites.
And so the outer, there would be a second garment that would go on top. Like nowadays, we would say it's a vest, like a shorter garment that would come to the middle of your thigh or whatever. And on that garment, you would put the gedalim or the tassels that you see in Deuteronomy 22:12. These are two different garments with two different quote unquote fringe expressions. Nasi Yaakov, Torah Yah for his life, he understood that, well, at the time, because nowadays we kind of get away with it a little bit, but at that time, we're talking about the 1940s and the 50s, how do you practice. Like if you got to go to work, how do you wear a long garment with fringes and the border of blue, and then another garment with the 4 tassels on each? Like, how do you do that in real time? Like, if you're a nurse, how do you do that? If you're a carpenter, like how do you do these things? And so what he did was, he said, what we're going to do, we're going to take the border of blue from Numbers 15, and we're going to add it to the tassels of Deuteronomy 22:12, because those type of tassels are much easier for people to wear if they have to go to work, because they're not impinging on anything. You don't have to worry about tripping over them, when you're at work, whatever. They're right there on your shirt, so you're able to keep the law. You know what I'm saying? But keeping it practically, especially because we're working in the Gentiles world. See, in ancient times, it was nothing to do it the way that they were doing it, because who's going to stop you from wearing your fringes?
Nice.
Nobody. Only wicked people. So Nasi Yaakov, he understood this, and he's like, well, this is what we're going to do. And he implemented it. This is the reason why you can't find no pictures of Israelites prior to the 1950s wearing tassels with blue on it. They always wore them all white, like how the Jews do. Nasi Yaakov said, well, no, we got to introduce the blue, because that's a commandment. On the fringe, you shall add the border of blue. So you have to have the blue. It's a commandment. And so he combined those two. Now, that was a tradition. That was a interpretation and a judgment call that he made so that Israelites could still go out into the workforce and still maintain their culture and the law, and it's not imposing on anybody. So that's why people would have the little tassels with the little blue on it, and they were able to go to work, do what they got to do, and then when they come back home, they could take that off and put on the longest fringes, you know what I'm saying, the world has ever seen. You could put on a 15-foot fringe if you wanted to when you off the workforce. So he did these things, and other elders implemented certain things so that it would be possible to still keep the law in a land that makes it difficult to do so. But these are traditions. So we speak against traditions, but most of what we're doing, it kind of is tradition. It's an interpretation of the law. So how far do we really want to go down that path of, no, if the law doesn't say it, then we shouldn't be doing it? And the example I gave, Aki. And if that's the case, well then there's no law that says that you should wipe your butt after you defecate.
Mm-hmm.
It says you should cover up the defecation, but it doesn't say anything about wiping your butt. So there should be Hebrews walking around with crusty underwear, right? But obviously common sense has told us, well, no, if I defecate, I probably should clean myself. Do we need a law to tell us these things? See, and that's what I'm saying, that we got to be very careful going down that road. So when we talk about the Mishnah and people frown their face, you're like, well, the New Testament has a lot of Mishnah as well, interpretations of how they wanted to implement certain concepts. And there's nothing wrong with that as long as the end result still points you back to the law.
And I want to say something real quick. And those that know me, my foundation is a Tanakh. You know what I'm saying? This is authoritative to me, or Torah, But like, I ain't even gonna say what I'm gonna say, but I'm gonna say this. What he just brought out with what Chief Prince Zebulon just brought out with the Zitzot, or yeah, I call it Zitzot, maybe I'm wrong, but what I have on right here, this right here. You know what I'm saying? Yes, I'm I'm not in my home, but I'm in this home and I'm wearing it, right?
Okay.
That wasn't Torah, the way we doing it now. And we have someone that now Israelites everywhere are doing this and don't even know why. They think it's because this is what it says we're supposed to do in the Torah, and it's a combination. I had to say that. I wasn't going to
absolutely.
It's a combination. So I love how you brought that out. Anybody have anything else to say towards that? We got one more topic. Do we need to go to the next? What's the third? It is a third topic. Yep. Y'all got time for a third topic? Because we done brought in like 3 or 4 different.
What was the third topic?
Here's the third topic. To the Achayot, do you all have anything to say with anything that was said before? If you all want to, if you have time to go with this last topic before we go, I won't even play any music right now. I'll close out with the music. Y'all muted right now.
See, Judah Moshe, he's bringing out the New Testament, those New Testament scripts, showing that even Paul, he understood it. He had like, listen, that traditions that they received from us, that we have traditions. And again, there's nothing wrong with traditions as long as that tradition is leading the people back to the Torah and keeping the Torah and uplifting the Torah and building a fence around it to protect the integrity of the Torah. And if that's what that tradition is doing, all praise to the Most High, because that's what judges. That's why he said to put judges in your gates. What are the judges for? If the law is clear cut, you don't need judges.
No, you don't, or elders, shoot,
or anything for that matter. Just do what the law says and call it a day. But
Okay. All right, man. Hallelujah. Do we want to go to this last topic, or do we want to pin it? What would you all like to do? Y'all got time for another last topic?
I don't know. How y'all feel? I think we should pin it till next week.
Okay. What was you about to say, Chief?
No, I said no. I said I'm down for whatever. However we want to move it, let's do it.
I'm as well. However we want to proceed.
I'm cool with knocking it out because I think next week, who bringing next week is you, Chief. I think it's you or it's Cat. Okay, the better Kathy brings it next week. Chief closes, right? So yeah, I don't know if she's gonna add it to hers or we can knock it out. I'm good.
Let me review the last and see.
So the last one says this: should one rebuke their neighbor even when they are without sin? Does one have to be righteous in order to hold their neighbor accountable? Again, I'm gonna read it again. Should one rebuke their neighbor even when they are without sin?
That last question meant to say even when they are with sin.
So
you broke up this.
She said it was supposed to say even when they are with sin. So should one rebuke their neighbor even when they are with sin?
Meaning, even though I'm not living righteously, do I still have a right to rebuke my neighbor?
Gotcha. So I actually could rewrite it. Let me go ahead and hide this real quick and put that in there so when people reading it, even when they are with. All right, cool. I'll do it right now. And it's good to go. So let me reread it. Should one rebuke their neighbor even when they themselves, let me put they themselves are with sin? Does one have to be righteous in order to hold their neighbor accountable? That's great question. What you got, Gavetta Kathy? You sound like you're ready. What you got?
I don't think that we should rebuke our neighbors when they are in. Rebuke is that's a firm word, because there could be certain instances where you don't deal with your neighbor because they have a certain standards of living that don't equal to your level of standards or even understanding. Right. However, even when we discuss weeks prior, where does the community begin? Because I may not be living next to an Israelite, but I got to look at this brother, this sister that's living next to me as still a part of my community. So how am I going to deal with him or her? Number one, I may not deal with them on the level that goes outside of my statute laws and commitments. However, I can deal with them within my statute laws and commitments, which is looking out for your neighbor. I'm not going to sit here and watch somebody break in their house or do things of that nature and, not be proactive or say anything. And hope that they would do the same. And we don't have cattle, we got dog. My neighbor's got dog. I know that's my neighbor's dog. I'm not gonna sit up there and see the dog walk up and down the street,
Right.
knowing that I know that that dog belongs to my neighbor. But I don't have to interact with my neighbor to that degree that I interact with my people on my level of understanding. But yes, I do believe there's a certain level of temperament that you need to deal with your people in your community, because that's your community. That's where you live at. And again, all of them may not have that level of understanding. So you're gonna have to have a certain level of understanding of the streets, the people you're dealing with,
Mm-hmm.
certain codes, however you want to define it. But you just can't live in a bubble. You're gonna have to interact with some people to a certain degree. So my opinion, regardless if my neighbors are on my level of understanding, my neighbors are my neighbors, and we live in a certain community together. That's another level of understanding that we have to come together on to protect our community and protect our homes.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
For me, I'm playing. So for me, should one rebuke their neighbor even when they themselves are with sin? Whew, that's a good one. Before I say what I'm gonna say, I want to go back to some of the comments. I posted Leviticus. Well,
Yeah, Leviticus. Yeah, I was gonna say Leviticus 19:17. That's like, if you don't mention that, you're off.
Yeah, this and what's crazy is what Akko Sharon brought out with that. What does she say? A person that like a quote scriptures like crazy. That's this dude right here. That's
this a scripture locator.
Yeah, that's this Hamite right here. I don't know if he's still here, and but we call it it's a inside joke, by the way, y'all.
But that's
those
things were required.
He quotes like nobody else. So Leviticus 19, he put out Proverbs 27:5. He put out Proverbs 11:9. Hypocrite.
What they call that? They call that pulling. They call that pull up the precepts.
Yeah. He's a shooter. That's why they call him Judah the shooter. That's how I might. But what I would say is with this great question that the Bandit Sharon brought out. Let me go back to it so I can read it with it. Should one rebuke their neighbor even when they themselves are with sin? I will say this, and I'm gonna say this for the Judah the shooter. You know what I'm saying? Because he New Testament and Old, right? I'm gonna say this, and he gonna laugh when I say this. It says to do what they say, but not what they do. I think it's like Matthew 20. Something like that. I might be wrong.
Is that Matthew 24, I believe? Something
like that, right? So with that being said, because I take sound advice because I'm a study of literature. If you always listen to Chief Zebulon earlier, me and him both. My foundation is a Torah. Tanakh is my authority. It's my authority. Most High Yah, everything. Right. But I study everything. Anything that's sound, I take. So you know how let me make it more modern for you all. Let me make it more modern for you. You ever heard parents say, yeah, you don't need to do this, but they're doing it. And then us as children were like, well, shoot, you doing it, I'm gonna do it. Are they wrong for saying don't do it? They know it's wrong. It's
do as I say, not as I do.
Right. That's the same thing and what I just brought out with the what do I normally call it? The Basora, when it talks about do what they saying, because what they saying is right. Just don't do what they do because they're hypocrites. You know what I'm saying? Don't listen to that. And that's wisdom. That is wisdom. It's like, bro, you don't need to be out here selling drugs. You're gonna be taken to jail. You might get killed, this and that. But I'm out here making money right here. I'm he ain't gonna say that, but I'm making money, but don't do this, please. I don't want you to follow in the same steps that I'm doing. but he can't stop because he's doing it. Are you gonna tell me what he's saying is wrong? No, he's saying something right, but it's gonna be tempting. It's like, I'm doing it. How are you gonna tell me not to do it, but you're doing it? Because there's wisdom behind it, even though he's stuck on doing it.
Right.
I know it sounds crazy. So I bring that up to say this. Should one rebuke their neighbor even when they themselves are with sin? A humble individual, a righteous man or woman, is going to see the wisdom in what's being said. If it's wisdom. Someone that is not wise, someone that is not righteous, that's tough, because somebody might be like, who the heck you think you is, Shema, saying someone that's not righteous with what you're about to say. Hear me out. Someone that's trying to find a reason not to listen to some wisdom that they're hearing, even from somebody that might not be. The scripture also says something about a fool. It's in Proverbs 17. I just read it today. It talks about, matter of fact, let me pull it up, because I ain't about to misquote the scripture. I ain't Judah the shooter. I used to be when I was younger. You know, he younger than me. He only a year, 6 months younger than me. But I used to be back in my heyday, just like he is now. Proverbs 17. Let's go to it real quick. It might be 16, but I'm going to go to 17:28. Here you go. 17:28. It say, even a fool, when he holdeth his peace, he is counted wise. And he that shutteth his lips is esteemed a man of understanding. Why am I bringing this out? Because even a fool, in my opinion, can understand wisdom. There's some fools that won't, but there's some fools that will. Someone that hold their peace, and no matter what they should or they shouldn't hold it, if they hold it and they know they should, and they're a fool, they're counted as wise. They're counted as wise. So let me go back to back to the question. So should one rebuke their neighbor even when they themselves are with sin? I say yes. I'm gonna say yes. Even if someone is, I know this person is sinning, it's still wisdom in what they're bringing out. Does one have to be righteous in order to hold their neighbor accountable? I think a wise individual will accept accountability from anyone that is beneficial for them to thrive. If it's something that's being said, that is accountable word that can help you thrive and be successful, you're going to take it. You're going to take that advice. You're going to take it. Perfect example. I know the history of the New Testament. I know the history of how certain things was implemented. But am I going to tell you that all the wise things within it I won't listen to? I'm not going to say that, because some of it is actually beneficial. Some of the things that said in there is not said in the Torah, as Chief said. I could bring it out and pull it. This does not take away that my foundation is the Tanakh. I'm not trying to steer nobody wrong. Hear me out, please. This stuff in the marriage department that said in the new that I put up in my covenant contractual agreement that's not in the Torah that I implemented. I'm going to take what's wisdom and apply it to my life, to my family's life, and call it as such. So any Israelite that does not agree with me on that, I am okay with it. But I ask you this, and I'm done when I say this: be consistent across the board if you disagree with me. All praises. I'm gonna pass the mic.
So, Chief, I have a question I want to present. This is to everyone on the panel and everyone that's listening. Do you believe that? Let me give this example. You can be at the gas station pumping your gas, and you have people, whether you got $1, whatever. Do you believe in people that are lost? However you want to categorize it, not on your level, not on your understanding, or whatever that you encounter on your day-to-day life. Again, gas station, grocery store. And these people we immediately look at as kind of off. They're not on our center of radar.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
However, they speak words of wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Or the thought.
Right. But I don't even see why that would even be a problem in order to hear, because let's look at it in reverse.
No, and that's where I was going at, because we often ask people, when we look at people in a total different situation than ourselves, whether it's financial, mentally, physically, spiritually, housing, or whatever, you don't immediately look at that person and take them seriously.
That's a fact. Come on.
You do not. But
promise.
those people that are in that situation could very well have a message that we're blocking because, again, they don't fit a certain persona that we're used to entertaining as people. But I just believe that a message can come from the lowest of the lowest.
A child. My children.
And especially a child. I have grandchildren, and I sit here and I'm in awe.
They ain't lived my life yet.
Yeah, and you know, and how they interact, because it's proof.
Right. Listen.
It is proof, but it just seems like we are so conditioned to turn our eyes, our mind, everything about us when we deal with these type of people, because you want to be prejudgmental, or you should be this, you should have this, or you should have that. But again, some of these people can deliver the most awesome message.
But I think, but to be fair, I think that's actually, it's a good thing to do. There's a saying, and back to the whole Mishnah thing. But there's a saying that our fathers have brought forth centuries ago, as far as we're told that we should build a fence around the Torah. Now, the term sayag in Aramaic, that's the term that they use in the text. Sayag, it can mean a fence, but it means it basically is anything that offers protection. So it could be a fence, it could be a filtering mechanism, anything that you can use to protect the integrity of your core values and beliefs. So in the case of somebody who's, let's say, like you said, sis, who's outside of the covenant, who's operating in the world or whatever, there's no problem with us hearing hearing the counsel or the advice of somebody else who's not in the Torah. Take the counsel. Whether you apply it is a different story, because when you receive that information, the first thing as Israelites we're supposed to do is what? We're supposed to filter it through Torah to see if, in fact, this is going to make sense for me. It may make sense for Mark Zuckerberg, but it might not make sense for me. Okay. But that's what we do with anything. We take the advice. You know, we don't look at a person and be like, hey, wait a minute. You're not in the covenant. Close your mouth. I don't want to hear it. Like, no, we're not doing that. We hear it and say, I get that. That makes sense. And after you receive it in the spirit that it was given. But when you walk away, you go to the authorities of your life, whether it be the scriptures, whether it be your elders, and you filter that. You take that and you run that through the filtering system to see if, in fact, it stands up to what is needful for you. So individuals who be like, nah, I ain't accepted. Those individuals, they have to do that, because that's what you do when you're a child. When you're a child in the walk, you can't afford to just take, concepts and ideas willy-nilly from anybody, because you're not built up yet. You're not like, listen, if you've only been in this walk for 2 years, you shouldn't be listening to nobody other than the elder of your congregation. You should not entertain nothing, because your clay has not solidified yet. It's still soft clay. It's still, you know what I'm saying? The foundation is still soft. Anything could jack you up at that point. But as you get older...
Now, clarify, honestly, who you should be listening to, because then I have people such as yourself and Chief and my sister Sharon again that have definitely have been in this walk longer than myself understanding.
Right.
I believe that all three of you bring, as well as my each bring a very great important significance of understanding.
Right.
So I guess I need a little bit of
I got you.
a clarification on that, because if I doubt what you say, I research it.
Mhm.
I get I get with my husband, I look at it, but like we was determined earlier, you could tell the spirit of someone that is really and truly into this, and you really like, I want to look into this. Why they're just talking, they're taking a platform stand,
right?
Okay.
But you all of you bring a very significant amount of information to the platform. So I understand clearly where Chief is coming from, because you have to really, really pick and choose about who you decide to take information from. And I'm just blessed that I'm on a platform that I trust these individuals. But yet you still can have a plethora of information coming from different people.
Right.
Facts. I got something to what you're saying. First of all, I want to say I love this platform because what it does is it checks me sometimes too. And the reason I say that is because, I still stand firm on what I said, but I do got to understand that for the sake of what both of you just brought out, you got new people that's listening. You got people that's trying to find out what you all are talking about. And you will sit up here and sorry. You would sit up here and you would sit up here and you would have, my bad, you all. You would sit up here and you would have too many thoughts that's being brought out. So you got to make sure you pinpoint everything you're trying to say. You got to make sure you hit every angle. And me as a teacher, I got to make sure I do that. And to answer your question, what you just brought out, Gobetter Kathy, is I lean more on Chief Zebulon. To answer your question, when someone comes in new, I had to gather my thoughts, you all. My mom just had, you all pray for my mom. And, she had the breast cancer surgery a couple of days ago. So we got friends and family over here. So I was kind of laughing because family, friend,
They hear that joyous noise.
They walked through. And I was trying to not laugh, so it threw me off. So you okay? Because I told her earlier, I'm saying, but I'm doing this show. Just make sure when you come, walk around the corner, So they're visiting. You all know I stayed in Chicago due to it. I didn't go to Spider Jordan. I'm still going in a couple months. Anyway, I wanted to put that out for those that's looking like, man, why are you stuttering? I'm not stuttering, you all. So I lean more on Chief Zebulon. I'm gonna tell you why. Matter of fact, Judah the Shooter, bring out this scripture for me in Sirach. And I know, Chief, you know it too, but I want to test how quick he is when it talks about the counsel of one. So I'm using that scripture because of how Chief brought out, when you're new, you shouldn't gather too much. Like you got your ish right there with you. That's your first primary. You know what I'm saying? He vetted us in a sense, me and Chief, to see how we were to come on this platform. You all got a household and you came and we bless you for coming. But when it comes to someone being new, stick with and don't bounce around because it's too much information. As we can see, we've been talking about so many subjects. It's too much information out there. Too many different thoughts as to what is right and what's wrong. Too many levels as to where a person is. Like he had Chief Prince Evelyn brought up a precept earlier. I don't rock with Isaiah 28 being precept upon precept. I understand the concept. I agree with the concept as long as the context is correct, culture, history, language, everything. But precept just means command.
Mhm.
It wasn't talking about jumping from scripture to scripture, but the concept is cool. So why am I bringing it out? Because that is one of the doctrines that's talked about as to how to get scriptures. Nothing wrong with it. I'm not against it, but it's different levels. So stick with something in the beginning. Learn as much as you can in the beginning with an individual or elder or whoever it is, instead of listening everywhere, because you're not going to build a foundation first. You're trying to build a house in this walk with yourself and the Most High Yah. If you are everywhere, your foundation is everywhere. So stick with a foundation. And then from there, when you're solid, then you can start growing more into the stuff. You know what I'm saying?
And that's
Yeah, I agree with you, brother, definitely. And we spoke about this on numerous occasions about foundation. It's definitely the most important, regardless of what, aspect of or field you're working in.
Mhm.
Foundation will always be the prominent figure of everything. It will be regardless, and that's what we just have to realize. Even when you start a new job, if you see that foundation is shaky and how they're trying to deliver that information to you, you need to be a little bit cautious. Foundation is everything. You cannot build a home on shaky foundation. You cannot build a relationship on shaky foundation. You cannot. That's everything.
I'm gonna pass the mic right back to you real quick. I'm gonna pass it right back. Think about how you operate with your ish. Chief just made this point. Okay, this information that was given to me, cool, right? But what do I do with it? Okay, I'm gonna go back to my foundation and chop it up with my elder, my ish, whatever, to see, hey, what do you think about this? You said it to me. That's what you did. Remember that time you told the platform about the people at your job? You knew what to say, but it's like,
right.
okay,
That wasn't my time to speak.
So
it wasn't my time to speak. I wasn't knowledgeable enough to represent us as the people. I would have made not only myself, but our people that we represent just look stupid. Point blank. But yes, my it is definitely my foundation of this. But the one thing that I told him, regardless, even though you're my foundation, you are also my path. And what I mean by that, it's continuous, regardless of what the circumstances may be. And I also, I don't know, like everyone thinks this way of life is very difficult. It really is to a certain degree. But me coming from the outside, coming in, I think it's the most structural. Because Christianity, like I say, you go to church on first day, you have a 2-hour, 3-hour session that's pumping on your emotion and not so much on your understanding. So you leave there and you're on a level of understanding, but then when the emotional part or the mental part hit you or your family, you don't know how to process the data that was delivered to you for 2 hours.
Right.
But the data that was delivered to you for 2 hours, again, was just pumping you up. Told my sister, this is earlier this week, this is the best course of life I've ever taken, because I have rules, guidelines. In my opinion, there's nothing left for me to second guess.
Right.
If I study, there's nothing for me to second guess. And what makes this life a lot better is the Christianity was more emotional. because again, they would build you up on an emotional platform. And the moment you would leave there and you would encounter anything personal, you didn't know how to handle it.
Yeah.
But working with people such as yourself, you know what I'm saying? And again, my husband and my congregation, you're understanding what the word is. You're studying it. That equips you. That's what, in my opinion, just levels you up, as they want to say, to all standards.
Right. Absolutely.
And I'm really, really getting this, you know, the more and more as I progress. And it's very gratifying. I don't feel lost. I see the pattern. So I'm just saying, I'm sorry if I got off, but I'm just saying, I think it's just great. You know, I want law, statutes, and commandments, no different than how you have to take a test and they're telling you this is how you have to take a test and this is the only way that you're going to pass.
Yeah.
College format or whatever. This is what I have for this. This is what I need to do. And that's what's going to make me a better individual and my family, you know, better, period. There is no more, there's no more second guessing to the game. That's all I have to say. My girlfriend and I were in the store the other day and we were shopping for refried beans. And she had to bring to my attention, oh, you can't get this brand. You got to get this brand because this brand has this in it. I'm like, girl, there you go. You'd have made me aware. Mm-hmm. So the more and more you're aware, you are accountable for. Yeah. But my point in that, I appreciate that. Mm-hmm. Because that's checking off, that's helping me check off listings that I need to become better in the Most High sight.
Right.
And that's all I have to say about that.
You know, it's interesting because Maurice Shema earlier, he brought something out about we were talking about you know, righteousness and, you know, whether a person who's not righteous can, you know, can rebuke somebody about something. You're like, well, wait a minute, but you don't, you know, you're not about this life. How you gonna tell me about that? But think about this. Let's look at it from, and I know I know Shishima will appreciate this. Let's look at it from the context of basketball.
Come on now, you already know.
Many years ago, I put up a post.
Shut up. Judah Moshe, I will dunk on you. Go ahead.
A few years ago, I had put up a post about this very same topic, and I said, look at players and coaches in the NBA. Have you ever noticed the greatest coaches were not very good players in their time? And the best players did not always make very good coaches.
Michael Jordan
was a horrible coach. But the Van Gundy brothers, who were not good players, excellent. Pat Riley, mediocre player, excellent coach. Phil Jackson, and I think at one point he was a Knick when he played. Phil Jackson was, you know, okay player, one of the greatest coaches. So what do we learn from that? In other words, a person may not have been a good player, but they could still give you the best advice. You could still, I mean, think about it. Michael Jordan is learning basketball fundamentals from a mediocre player.
That's my mom, everybody.
Hey,
you walked in. That's the one that she said, "Ooh."
I heard somebody say, "Ooh."
You see, I'm right here. Got a mic in everything. I said, but you
that,
see, she's well from the cancer, everybody. So,
hallelujah, all praise to the Most High.
They said hallelujah and hi to you. She said hi to all of you.
Yes, all blessings. Yes, we will continue to pray. Lift her up, definitely.
She said, "Ooh." Go ahead, Chief. My bad.
No, it's all good. But yeah. So I mean, just from a sporting perspective, and me, I'm a, like he's, big in basketball. I grew up. I was a baseball player.
Baseball. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's what I did, and it's the same thing. You know what I'm saying? I used to take batting instruction from a guy who he didn't even excel in high school baseball, but he was giving me fundamentals that I took, and I'm like, because I was a very good hitter, but I was a better pitcher. I was a pitcher, but I hit very well, and he was giving me fundamentals. When I was living in New York, we used to play what they call Gil Hodges baseball league, and he taught me how to control my fastball. Told me like, yo, you shouldn't pitch. At your age, you shouldn't use your fastball, but you shouldn't use junk pitches. Don't use curveballs. Don't use breaking balls. Don't use breaking, because you'll throw your arm out by the time you're 19. Your arm will be finished. But this guy, you go on and look up his stats. He was nobody in school, in college. Like he was average.
Mm-hmm.
But I was still able to take advice from him. Why? Because his advice was sound.
Let me ask you a question, Chief. Let me ask all of y'all a question. All the scholars out there, and I'm done. I ain't saying nothing after this. We gonna close out, let y'all close out, because people been here for a minute. We appreciate all of you that stood here. Y'all Conscious Radio. Well, if it's not y'all conscious, it is not acceptable. Subscribe, share, like. Again, subscribe and share. And then when you share, tell all your people, man, this is the platform where you need to be, because we're going to be talking about everything pertaining to either scripture and man and woman, culture, modern society. Let me ask you a question. Did any of the righteous men and or women in our literature, in our text, take any advice from those that weren't of us or wasn't righteous, and the advice was wisdom? I'll wait. That should answer the question right there.
Yeah.
Okay. So, with that being said, you all, I'm going to say I appreciate all of you for tuning in. Any of the achayot, the sisters, Kaberet, Kathy, Kaberet, Sharon, Achot, Chief Prince Zabulan, if you all had anything to close us out with, I don't want to keep people too late. Plus, I got to get up in like 4-5 hours. Praises. Let you all close out, man. Appreciate you, Judah the Shooter, man. Man, we appreciate you, man. Matter of fact, make sure you all cop his book, The Unwritten Rules to Polygyny. The Unwritten Rules to Polygyny. You will not find a book out there like it at all. Trust me, I've read it. I have 2 copies. Even though in there he said everything I know already, but I'll play it. Most people don't know it.
That's not for you. That's for everyone else.
I know. See. My Achot right here, she telling me, shut up.
Exactly.
It's an amazing look. Anybody that know Judah the Shooter, he was already writing books on Facebook, and it's going to keep you engaged. I lie to you not. It's for those that are against polygyny, and it's for those that are for polygyny. I lie to you not.
I'm gonna mute out.
Yeah, you're gonna mute out. It's for those that's for and those that's not. So the Unwritten Rules of Polygyny. So appreciate you for tuning in, man, and bringing your brother who came on and been watching us as well. Please have him sign up, and appreciate you for throwing out Cyrus the Persian. This man is a encyclopedia. I'm gonna pass the mic to the fellow panelists.
Nah, I think we pretty much exhausted the the subject matter tonight. Of course it's a blessing, and I pray y'all that our people who are tuning in or who will tune in have been able to extract nuggets of wisdom, nuggets of counsel Because this is this is all for us, even those of us who are speaking it. This is still therapy for ourselves.
Oh yeah,
and this actually goes back to what you were saying as far as with the brother Judah Moshe's book. My attitude is, listen, even if you are a expert in polygyny, we all still need to be reminded, because there are things. Because now you're talking about vantage points. There's certain vantage points where you might be like, wow, I believe in polygyny, and I didn't see that.
Yeah, I plan on reading it again.
No, right. So I mean, that's just with anything that we deal with, rudimentary knowledge or advanced knowledge. We still have to be able to get in these books, because even a refresher course will keep you from going off the rails in your later years. So these things are important. So we definitely appreciate all that the Hebrew community is putting out. Contrary to what the Fishbowl says,
thank you.
Many Hebrew Israelites are doing great things and putting out quality literature for us and by us.
And they're living the life. So when I say this about this brother, you all know I don't promote people just to promote people. I promote Chief Prince Ebulan with his 15 or 16 books. I want to promote Achayot because they both are doing things for the community and things pertaining to their life. But when I promote this brother, it's because he has 4 wives, successful and love life. He has 4. Not 1 year being with 4 wives, but years. You know what I'm saying? So 280 pages is his book. I counted. I was like, dang, dude, 280 pages?
Oh yeah. You building definitely a topic of discussion, brother.
Yeah, no. This is the person Akko Sharon asked me who was one of the people I wanted to interview. Him and his wife.
Yes, definitely. He
already knows. He already knows. He waiting. He gonna let me know when I bring them on. But he's one of the people because he's an expert in this. He had these wives for. We had 3 for a long time, but the 4th one now is I believe recent. And he's successful. So with that, I yield.
All right, brother.
All right, you all. Thank you all for tuning in. This is Y'all Conscious Radio. Well, if it's not conscious, it is not acceptable. Please subscribe, share, like our page. Our YouTube channel. We are going to be bringing a lot of stuff. For those that have been here for a while, you already know how we get down on these topics. We got some beautiful topics that's given to us by the Achayot, the sisters. Then us as brothers, we bring stuff as well, and it's just booming. So I look forward for next week. I'm going to close out with some Hebrew, man. I know we've been playing in a few different songs, English songs and all that, but I'm going to close it out with some Ben Blackwell, man. He said, Judah Moshe said, tell bro he's going to have to teach me some of this Hebrew.
I just saw that, yeah.
No, I'm not accepting that. I don't know if he was talking. He got to be talking about you, Cheapers.
He's talking about you.
He know me already.
He's talking about you or the other chief, because he definitely can't be talking about the females.
All right, y'all. I'm gonna close out with this song, and man, you all have a beautiful, beautiful night. Let's get some Hebrew up in here. He brought out the Hebrew.
Guys, come on.
היא סובלת ולאף אחד לא אכפת, היא נושמת אבל הלב שלה מת מזמן, היא פוחדת לאן לרוץ, יש לה בתוך הגוף פצע שמתרפק, שהרמקול צועק במסגרת, היא עומדת ליד העמדה שלה, תקליטן מתחילה לרחב עם המלודיה, שוכחת את הכל והלב מתחיל לפרוק שירה. תרקדי ילדה, תרקדי, תרקדי ילדה, תרקדי, תרקדי ילדה, תרקדי,
ותשכחי, תרקדי ילדה, תרקדי, תרקדי ילדה, תרקדי, תרקדי ילדה, תרקדי, ותשכחי, ותשכחי.
תראי לשתף איתך מה שלא זורם אצלי, אין אחד בעולם שיקח את הנפש של אחד מהחיות שלי. אני לא מסכים שתסבלי, לא נעים. אני כאן באולפן נושם לתוך המיקרופון, מביא לך את האפשרות לברוח מהשיגעון. הקמון תגדי את המצפון, נצטרך להרדים, זה רק אני ואת פה, תשכחי מהכל, את המרפא אני לא אפסיק להלחים. אין מצב שאת תפלי, תרגי את תתהיה, תרקדי, אני מוצר עברי ובנו אותי להצליח, אז תרגישי חופשי. לכל בן אדם עברי יש מחויבות להשיב את השלום ולחזק את התרבות. בואו אנחנו המיעוט ומילדות סיפור על הכבון, אני יודע זהו. אז בואו נשמור על השפיות, השיגעון הורס לי את הדמות, יש לי את הזכות לעזור לאחות שלי, והנה הסיבות שלי. היא סובלת ולאף אחד לא אכפת, היא נושמת אבל הלב שלה מת מזמן. היא פוחדת לאן לרוץ, יש לה בתוך הגוף פצע שמתרפא כשהרמקול צועק והמוזיקה צעימדת ליד העמדה שלה. תקליטן מתחילה לרחב עם המלודיה, שוכחת את הכל והלב מתחיל לפעול. תרקדי בשביל יום כדי להציל את הטוב שנשאר. תרקדי בשביל גבוה ותנקי את העבר. תרקדי בשביל גבוה כדי להציל את הטוב שנשאר. תרקדי בשביל גבוה ותנקי את העבר. לכל בן אדם עברי יש מחויבות להשיב את השלום ולחזק את התרבות. לכל בן אדם עברי יש מחויבות להשיב את השלום ולחזק את התרבות. Let's go.
All right, that was Ben Blackwell. For those of you who do not know who he is one of the offsprings from the community in Dimona, Yisrael, or Israel. You know, started back from Ben Ami, Ben Israel. Check them out. Those are trying to learn some Hebrew. Some might not like the modern Hebrew. That's okay. You know, it's always good to have different dialects added, have a couple different languages in your belt. With that being said, all praise to the Most High. Okay. You all have a wonderful rest of your week. We look forward to you tuning in next week, where the topics is not going to do anything but become greater and greater and greater. And I want to thank the panelists that we have on this platform. Geberet, Kathy, awesome, amazing insight. Same with Geberet Sharon, amazing insight, a lot of knowledge. You know, both of you all. Then we got Chief Prince Abulam, historian, and myself. I'm just somebody that's here to tell y'all I love y'all. Shalom. Y'all have a good one.
Hallelujah. Shalom.
Hallelujah.